every shout. Tune in, feel the energy ignite. Rise and grind, take flight. Hey, feel the unity, the tribe's electrified. There, under the stadium lights, where legends thrive. Every touchdown, we're close to clock west. In Detroit, we stand. Get down there. Rise and grind, Detroit's calling out. Football dreams in every shout.
All right, good morning. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is the Monday after the Saturday night collapse. We're going to talk about it this morning. Tried to talk about it last night for a couple hours, and man, there is a ton of emotion in the city right now with these Lions fans. Many different directions people are taking this game. Can I say that anybody's wrong for their take? Probably not. I mean, everyone's going to have their own way that this game was shaped up and shipped out and how it went down. But I think at the end of the day, we could probably all agree on one thing. This was the worst game I think that we have seen the Lions play in a very long time. Even worse than the Bills game, worse than the Bucs game. I mean, when you look at the very few losses the Lions took this season, 3 to be exact, this was the worst one. And not just because they didn't win a playoff game. I think they were ill-equipped, ill-prepared, and even though some of these players left it all out on the field, I'm sure they all did. They definitely didn't do a good enough job on Saturday night. Welcome in, Eric. How you doing this morning, man? How you feeling?
Kind of crappy.
Yeah.
Oh, this sucks.
It's always tough to do this show. So last year, I want to say I got started at the very tail end. I'd have to go back and look at where I started and when I started doing the morning show. But I want to say I did a couple of morning shows after the NFC Championship game, right after. And that was really hard. But, one of the things that I actually wanted to compare this game to a little bit, and we're just going to jump around a little bit today. It's really no format for, trying to figure all this out. But when you look at the NFC Championship game last year, all this blame is being put on Jared Goff, obviously Frank Ragnow, Penei Sewell, and just about everybody else in that locker room is going to tell you there's 22 starters on that field. They are all equally to blame. They all did something in that game that led to points, led to big catches for the Commanders, right? Blown assignments and coverage, blown run stop assignments. I mean, you name it. You could point fingers everywhere. And when I look back at the NFC Championship game, Jared Goff didn't throw any interceptions in that game. Put up, 31 points. And then in the second half, it was a defensive collapse. So Jared Goff has done enough for this city as it is already. We wouldn't be in this position. We wouldn't have been 15-2. We wouldn't have had a 1 seed without all of the work that Jared put in too. But you know what? It's not just Jared. It's everybody that caught a pass. It's everybody that accepted a handoff. It's everybody that made a tackle. Everybody is equally to blame for what went on Saturday night. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat AG shit to bed. I'm not going to sugarcoat that Ben Johnson called his worst game. I've been talking about his cuteness all season. It's just not needed. Why are we flexing, at certain points in this game when it's just get the first down, dude? Get the points.
Yeah.
And you do these things that just don't make any sense at all. And then I'd have to blame Dan Campbell for a minute, right? I mean, Dan, you're hearing the call. Why are you not saying, whoa, what are you doing? I understand he wants to put all the trust and faith in his guys, but this is win or go home. There is no tomorrow. And again, we'll talk about some of the same things that I spoke to last night. And I tried to lay it out last night. I tried to run through the stats, but there was a team last night that had a very similar situation to the Lions, the Bills, and the Ravens game. Another RPO type system with Lamar Jackson and Henry, and the Bills did what? I mean, it's been all over the news. He comes out, McDermott says, our only goal this week was to contain. And that's what they did last night, and that's how they won. They took their opportunity when they could get after Lamar and get a sack, but they contained him. And by containing him, they shut it down. That's all the Lions had to do on Saturday night. It's what I spoke to all week. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat this either. I called the exact defense on week 18 that the Lions ran prior to week 18. Didn't that defense work? I think it did. So when we go through game tape and we look at these things, I may not be 100% correct on everything, but I'm pretty sure I'm better than 80%, better than 85%. And I speak truth, right? I speak transparency, and what we see is what we see. Pass rush is not going to help you against an RPO. Just not. That's what they tried to do. They tried to blitz 54% of the snaps against Jaden Daniels, and he ate it alive. And it's exactly what I warned the Lions fans about. Everyone that tuned in last week, that's exactly what I warned against. Aggressiveness is going to hurt you. So with that said, going to be all over the place today. My first question, Eric, what the hell happened?
Everything happened. Why was David Montgomery out there for the first series? He's been off for a month.
Flexing. Again, flexing. It's a good story, right?
Off for a month. And you have Gibbs, who has been the most electric running back in the entire NFL over the last 4 weeks. And he's standing on the sidelines.
Yeah.
That absolutely mystified me. And we go 3-0 to start the game. Why is Jahmyr Gibbs not in the game? This game should have been run the ball, and then run the ball some more. They were the 30th ranked team against the run in the entire NFL.
Yeah.
And we were strong against the pass, and we try to pass the ball all day.
Yeah, you try to. Yeah. So last week, I've made reference to this a few times this season. When you put the ball up over 30 times in a game, you're going to throw a pick. The stats are there. It's one of those stats that I've been covering and following that my nerd brain puts together. The 20 points or less call that I put together for the last many seasons is something I've been following for more than a decade. 20 points or less won us 15 games this season.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there might have been one game that they scored more than 20 on us, but the average that the defense put up was 20. The other one is passes in a game. If you put the ball up more than 30 times in a game, you are likely to throw at least one interception. You get over 40 attempts or 40 or more, the chances of you throwing 2 to 3 is like 20-fold. Jared Goff threw 3 picks in this game because he put the ball up 40 times. And he didn't need to. Ben Johnson knew or should have known the most efficient runner in this game on Saturday night was Jahmyr Gibbs. At one point, he was 14.5 yards per carry. I think it was like he was like 9 for 82 or something like that when I was looking at it as the first half or first quarter. So 14.5 yards a carry, and you want to go to a pass on third down at the 17-yard line, and it turns into an interception or it turns into a fumble, whatever it was. We'll walk through it.
Yeah,
that stuff just doesn't make sense to me at all. So there's a lot of blame to go around, a lot.
Yeah, and for the game, Jahmyr Gibbs was 7.5 yards a carry, and you have your thoroughbred on the sideline for so much of that game. That they should have utilized Gibbs 99% of the time, and if he needed a breather, then you bring in Monty. I'm sorry, I know Monty. They want him to be 1A, 1B, but he's just not 1A, 1B anymore. Gibbs has shown that he needs to be 1A.
Yeah, Gibbs is definitely the lead back here. I mean, it's no shade to Montgomery. I mean, he's had a phenomenal couple of seasons with us, but I think, Brad Holmes did it right by taking Jahmyr Gibbs early the way that he did, or at least a lot of people thought that they took him early. That's right where I had Gibbs going to the Lions was number 12. And he has proven week after week after week this season that he should be the one back. In a dual back system, splitting up carries a little bit, I get it. You're wanting to keep Jahmyr as healthy as you can, just like, Monty. You're wanting to keep Monty as healthy as you can. But next season, it's going to have to be Gibbs 1, Monty 2. We need the explosiveness.
Mm-hmm. No, in the regular season, I don't mind Monty starting the game. I don't mind him, bending the defense. I don't mind him softening it up for Gibbs when Gibbs gets in. That's fine. But in a playoff game where he hasn't played for over a month and you don't know how healthy he is, oh my God, why would you take it away from him? I that's the part that I was baffled with right from the very beginning of the game. Screaming on the very first play of the game, where's Gibbs? Where's Gibbs? Where's Gibbs? So that really, right from the very beginning, the absolute beginning of this game, was something was off. And that to me was what was off, is that Gibbs was not in the game on the very first play.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, something was off. And I think that we could see that pretty quickly. It was evident something wasn't right. Yeah. And you know, I said it last night. I mean, how much blame do you put on Dan Campbell for giving these guys all this time off, or which was really only one extra day for the coaches? Yeah, you're going to rest your players. That's one thing. Rest your players. You know, get them as healthy as you can get them. But we only got back Montgomery. We didn't get back a bunch of other, you know, we didn't get Zeitler back. We didn't get Rakestraw back. We didn't get Carlton Davis back. We didn't get anybody else back. We got Montgomery back. So did we really need to rest a whole bunch of guys? I mean, we didn't have a ton of extra or additional injuries. Now it is the end of the season. Everyone is probably, you know, at 85% health. You know what I mean? I mean, they're as healthy as they're going to be. They're all banged up. Yeah. Of course, they needed a little bit of time. But for the coaches, I mean, I've heard it being thrown around. Dan Campbell staying at home or going home, spending time with his family. Great. It's needed. You probably needed that breath of fresh air. But my question is, if we had not had the 1 seed and you're going right into the next game, we win that game. Mm-hmm. I guarantee it. If you had 0 time off, you win. I think that they mismanaged the 1 seed. That's my biggest take. But when you put mismanagement of the 1 seed on top, you know, and you start to build your brackets all the way down and filter in what happened, it's okay. Mismanaged of the 1 seed, Dan Campbell. Under Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson. What did they each do? Well, Ben, you know, did all this, and, you know, AG did all this, and, well, Dave Phipp. Dave Phipp wasn't prepared. I mean, you could go down the line, and you could point fingers at everybody. I'm not going to point the biggest finger at Jared Goff, who got us in this situation, albeit with the help of his entire team. So you can't say it, you know, out of both sides of your mouth that Jared Goff's not responsible, yet he's only responsible for the season. You can't say it, right? That just wouldn't be correct. So anyway, you were saying something.
Yeah. Well, you just reminded me of something. We're sitting in the stands, we're watching this game, and I'm sitting in the end zone, looking down at the opposite end zone where the Commanders are kicking off to. And every time they kick the ball off, they'd kick it towards Craig Reynolds.
Yep.
They wanted Craig Reynolds to return it. So it wasn't until late in the fourth quarter that Reynolds and Raymond would line up left and right. And then as soon as the guy kicked the ball, Raymond would come over and try to get that ball before Craig Reynolds could, you know, and they didn't make any adjustments until halfway through the fourth quarter on that, you know. Yes. They purposely were kicking it to Craig Reynolds. They knew he could only get it up to the 20-25.
So after watching the game going on, right? I mean, I watched the first kick. They kicked it short. They made us return it. The group that I sit with, we've got former coaches around us, right? So we've got a real good group of people. And he turned around and he looked at me and I said, yeah. I said, I see what's about to happen. And I said this last night, that Dave Phipp, I'm sure he had his guys prepared, but Dan Quinn recognized something. And if you go back and look, which I didn't go through every single game, but we didn't have a bunch of returns on the kickoff. A lot of it was kneel downs in the end zone, right? You're kicking it through the uprights and you're getting it on the 30. Dan Quinn and their special teams coordinator, Izzo, I think is his last name, former Pro Bowler, former Patriot, bright dude, recognized that we haven't been tested on that side of special teams. So what a better opportunity than in a divisional matchup that now you're going to kick the ball to the least effective returner, which is Craig Reynolds, and force us to return the ball, which is also putting us in a bad position for field position. So at what point were you going to stop the bloodshed, Phip? At what point were you going to go to Dan and say, look, I know how we can shut this down? You're not going to like it, but you put J-Mo and Gibbs back there. He ain't going to kick the ball short. And if he does, one of them is probably going to take it to the house. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, every time that the Commanders scored, at what point are you going to say, look, we got to win this game? So now I am going to put those guys in the game. And I am going to put them in the kickoff return situation so that we can hopefully get a little bit of a, injection of energy here and get a big return or even taking it to the house. That's how you stop it. You have to. It's the art of war. What did I say last week about the art of war, man? That's what this game was going to come up to and be all about is who is going to use you against you. And I'm sorry, Dan Quinn used us against us. He used what we do well against us. Go ahead.
Yeah, and this is a one and done game. This is it. There is no tomorrow if you do not win this game. Yeah. And every game this season, I've gotten into the stadium 3 hours early. So as soon as they open those doors, I go in and I sit and I watch what all the players do in warm-ups, when they're doing their stretches, and then when they're shagging punts and they're doing kickoffs. Guess every week who is back there taking kickoffs and punts? Jahmyr Gibbs and Jamison Williams. Yep. Every single week. So I know they're prepared for it. I know they're ready to do it. They're back there doing it every week in pregame warmups. Every week.
Yeah. So there was some comments about, Jared Goff getting pressured in this game. And, a lot of people are running their mouth about Jared Goff. And I get it. I mean, there's a lot of Jared Goff haters, always has been. Right? It just took them this loss to come back out of the closet and say, oh, hey, look, I'm going to wave my flag now. Jared Goff sucks. Jared Goff had a bad game. But they're going to forget the other 17 games that we just played and how incredible Jared Goff's season was and how amazing he was this season. So you want to come out and attack Jared Goff without putting a full effort in at looking at everything. Yes, the interceptions hurt. Absolutely. And my whole take on is that's not the only reason why we lost this game. It's not. And out of the, multiple turnovers that we had, you can't blame Jared for all of them. So initially yesterday, as soon as I wake up, in the morning, like I went to bed at 3, I think I was up around 7. And I'm looking at NFL Pro. It's down. There's nothing. They're not giving you anything. You can't watch the game, which would have given me opportunity to go in and watch each individual play. So you go to PFF, they finally put their stats out, 25 pressures on Goff. Now, NFL Pro has 16, I think. The difference is their modeling, right? How do they rank a pressure? And this is the problem with too much stats out there. A true pressure has always been under 2.5 seconds. Always. That's where it began. That was a true pressure. PFF has added all these different categories, right? And they've extended it to 3 seconds for a pressure. So that's where you're going to get extra pressures. You got pressures under 3 seconds, and then you have quick pressures under 2.5 seconds. I've gone through this all season. I tried to educate everybody about the pressures because there's like 12 or 14 different types of pressures. At the end of the day, there's pressures that are just getting your tackle pushed back into the pocket 1 yard. Does that really put pressure on a quarterback? Probably not. But every system, every model uses that. So you have to watch the tape. Now I went and watched the tape. So let's talk about these turnovers for just a moment. The first one, 3rd and 1 at the Washington 17. It's 1:02 left in the first. Jared Goff is sacked and stripped for a fumble at the Washington 25 for -8 yards by Armstrong. The fumble was recovered by Luvu at the 22. Glasgow on that play was completely shredded. He was beat. It was a quick pressure. He was sacked and stripped in under 2.5 seconds. So can you blame Jared Goff for getting a blindside strip sack? No, you can't. You can't blame Jared Goff for having his back turned and getting, taken out because Glasgow completely failed on the play. I've got it dialed up, right? I'm just not going to play it live because it'll cause problems. So blindside strip sack on Jared Goff. You can't blame him for that. Okay, then they're going to go to the next level. Well, he was loose with the football. It was under 2.5 seconds. Jared Goff's getting ready to throw that ball, which, again, he shouldn't have been. We should have been handing the ball off at that point. Why are we trying to throw the ball? So then you take it to the next level. Who's responsible for that? Well, let's start at the top. Dan Campbell. Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson communicates to Jared Goff. Jared Goff communicates to his offense. Now the offense has to execute. They didn't execute. Graham Glasgow failed on that play. So Graham was the first domino that fell. Jared was the second domino that fell. Well, overall, they all failed. So there's 5-6 people that are all in line to point the finger at. It's not all JG. So what did you think of the fumble? I mean, do you blame Jared Goff for it? Do you feel like this is just a product of what was happening on Saturday night?
I feel it's that's 1,000,000% coaching right there. If for one, why was it an empty backfield? Why is he not handing the ball off on 3rd and 1? Because even if you get a half yard, you're going for it on 4th down.
Exactly. You could have run it twice for a yard apiece and gotten a first down.
We were at what, the 30?
No, we were at the 17.
That's what I mean. We're right there.
You're about ready to score, and you got another opportunity to get another first down just by running the ball.
Yeah, you can kick a field goal, whatever. The guaranteed points. All you have to do is hand the ball off to Jahmyr Gibbs, or there's your David Montgomery play right there. Give the bowling ball the ball on 3rd and 1. They know it's coming, and you do it anyway. That's what we're missing. We're missing they know we're going to run the ball, and we run it anyway. That's what we were missing in this game.
We got away from our identity. So I'm watching the play right now. Okay. David Montgomery's in the game. So he goes out. It's an empty set. He goes out wide. What? Yeah, because we're going to pass the ball on 3rd and 1. And you know what? Nobody was even open. Not one player was open on that play. And Jared Goff is sacked in under 2.5 seconds. You're at the 17-yard line, Ben Johnson. We have the most efficient run game in the NFL. Extremely efficient in this game. Why are we passing the ball on 3rd and 1? Excuse me, 3rd and 1. Not 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1.
Yeah.
You can't blame Jared Goff for a shit call and shit protection. Sorry.
Yeah. After that play, that's when everything just started going downhill. Because at that point of the game, we were up, what, 7-0? 7-3?
Yeah, I think it was 7-3 at that point. So we would have gone up 14-3.
Yeah. And then they take it down and score.
Let me see here. I think so. Let me go back to this.
Yeah, Kevin Barr says it was 7-3 at that point.
Yeah, 7-3. 3rd and 1 at the 17. And again, if you're going to tell me we can't get a yard on 2 run places, we're going for it on 4th down. We aren't kicking a field goal. And even if we cooked a field goal there, who cares? You get 3 points out of it. You're up 10-3. It helps. At least you're not giving the ball back to them to go and score real quick. So, all right. The next turnover. So, first turnover, I'm not crediting that to Jared Goff. That's team turnover. Mm-hmm. First interception, it's 2nd and 14. We're at the Detroit 18. There's 5:28 left in the second quarter. We're in shotgun. Jared Goff throws a pass deep left intended for Tim Patrick. It was intercepted by Martin at the Detroit 40. Martin returns it for 40 yards and a touchdown, pick 6. Now, during this play, Jared Goff was also hit helmet to helmet. The contact was not called, but remember, all of those plays can be reviewed and should be reviewed upstairs. All scoring plays are reviewed. So they should have seen the fact that Jared Goff was hit helmet to helmet. Last night, I reviewed the rule. I reviewed the NFL rule. And if you go back and watch yesterday's game with Patrick Mahomes, identical hit against Patrick Mahomes, not an interception or anything, but an identical hit on Patrick Mahomes after a pass, but even weaker than what happened to Jared Goff. They're flagged. Why was Jared Goff's not flagged? Because this was one of at least 4 helmet-to-helmets that were very clear. Not one flag. Not one bit of help from upstairs. Now, Jared had to leave the game under concussion protocol. Clearly, it was reviewed because that call comes from New York. So they had to have seen the hit. It doesn't get any more egregious than that to me by the NFL's failure to not only call, the personal foul on the field, but upstairs had an opportunity to. Doesn't make any sense to me. But this is what happens to the Lions. But this is what happened in the game. JG threw the pass high. It was a high pass to Tim Patrick. Poor pass. 100% his fault. And the reason why it's also his fault is because Laporta was wide open underneath. Wide open for about a second. There was a linebacker that was maybe within 6 yards of Laporta. Everybody else was downfield. Jared Goff was holding the ball last night, and he was trying to, put the ball down 14 yards to try to get a first down. I get it. He wanted to get beyond the sticks. Laporta was underneath the sticks. But Laporta was wide open. You're telling me that Laporta couldn't knife forward for another 5-6 yards? Probably could have. Maybe not 14 yards, but it wouldn't have been an interception. At least we would have been able to punt the ball and move forward. So this pick six turns into, points for the Commanders. The Lions lost at least, 3 points probably on this play, but we weren't even close to being in position. Let me pull that play up while we're talking. Go ahead. What'd you think about that first interception?
Well, I got to take it back even further. So pregame, they announced the inactives for today, and I look at my phone, and it says Hendon Hooker is our emergency backup quarterback, and that Teddy Bridgewater is the backup for the game. Mm-hmm. And I was baffled.
Well, didn't I say that a few weeks ago? There's a reason why Teddy's back, and it's because he's going to be the first one in over Hooker.
Yeah.
But everybody wants Hooker to be our starting quarterback.
Yeah. So what is up with Hooker? Why all of a sudden was Hooker demoted to third string for the playoffs, but not for any of these other games? I didn't understand that. And I didn't know what was going on. And to me, it's awful fishy that they put Teddy in as the second stringer, and then all of a sudden he's got to come in the game for the first time all season. Goff is injured on a play for the first time in 18 games. Yeah. I just thought that was awful fishy and weird. It all seemed kind of like a setup to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm putting my tinfoil hat on today. It just something didn't feel right when I saw those inactives come out on Saturday.
So on the interception, Jared Goff, obviously deep pass intended for Tim Patrick to get us to a first down. Now, we were on our own 18-yard line, so we were in no way, shape, or form in scoring position. And I get it. You want to get the ball downfield. You want to get a first down because I have a feeling that Dan Campbell wouldn't have gone for it. Clearly, I would hope that he wouldn't have had we ended up somewhere around the 25, or even the 30-yard line, a couple yards shy of the first down, that they would have punted the football. But man, this was a bad pass. I mean, Tim Patrick was barely open. Barely open. And if Jared Goff would have thrown the ball maybe a half a second earlier, he would have been even more open. If he would have threw it on the break, there would have been more of an opportunity for him to catch that pass. So let's get into J-Mo. Now, I know that whenever I mention J-Mo's name, everybody gets their panties in a bunch and they get upset because they think that everyone's a J-Mo hater. I'm not a J-Mo hater. I really appreciated what J-Mo has done this season and how he has stepped up this season. But on this play, 1st and 10 at the Washington 29, 35 seconds left in the second quarter. Let me get the play up.
Is this the one where he was lollygagging?
That was towards the end of the game.
Yeah. But
on this play, again, we're at the where are we at? We're at the 29-yard line. Jared Goff throws a strike into the end zone. Now J-Mo was leaking to the back of the end zone, like he was headed right at the goalpost.
Oh yeah, this is the one where the guy
jumped right in front of him. Right, he was hip to hip. I think it was Sainristil was hip to hip. Let me actually read it real quick. Sainristil was hip to hip, obviously with J-Mo. So J-Mo should have noticed that. I mean, you can clearly see out of your peripheral that the guy's right next to you. And that ball's coming right at you. But if he would have taken a more of a vertical turn right? When he was turning and running towards the end zone and coming back out of the end zone, he would have had a chance to at least knock the ball down or make it a 50-50 ball. That's what I meant the other day when I said he should have come back for the football. You've got to put your foot in the dirt and come back. You can't just keep gliding towards the end of the end zone or out of the end zone with a pass that is clearly in the path of Sainristrow. It was a perfect pass. But Sainristrow made an amazing play. He broke on the ball perfectly. Jamo's got to recognize that, and he's got to step in front. You can't. I don't want to say that I can blame Jamo or Jared Goff for this interception. It was a beautiful pass. Sometimes your receivers have to do a little bit more. Sometimes they have to be, putting themselves in a position to not make a play, but at least not allowing the defense to make a play. And you'll see that with other receivers in the NFL that do it all the time. If they know that they can't make a play on the ball, they're going to break and try to break it up. Easier said than done. 100% realize that. So I would go 50-50 on this one for Jared Goff. Again, the play first and 10, mind you, 35 seconds left. Pretty sure we have all of our timeouts at that point. And we're going straight to the end zone instead of moving the ball down a little bit further. Now, I can't blame Ben for everything here either. I think it was a good call, but I still think you probably want to move the ball a little bit. Taking this strike at the end zone, you had time. And if you score right there, you give too much time to the Commanders anyway. They could have come and done something, had they got the ball back. But no points either way. No points for Washington. Obviously, no points for the Lions. And where were we? Let me see. Where were we at the end of that second? So the score was... So the score at that point would have been 31-21. So had they just moved the ball a little bit further and kicked the field goal, it could have been 31-24. So now you're back within a touchdown, one score. Or you move the football down a little bit more and you get a touchdown, well, then you're within a couple of points. They were getting the ball back in the second half. I think you've got to be smarter there. But at the end of the day, I think Jamo needs to make a better play on that ball. So I'm going to go 50-50 for Jared and Jamo on that play.
Yeah, I thought Jamo just didn't get position on the wide receiver on that one, or I mean on the corner, and he let the guy get on his inside hip. You can't. You're in the back of the end zone, dude. You can't let the guy get inside leverage on you. Otherwise, he's gonna have he's gonna be able to get that ball before you do.
Well, clearly he did. So then the next interception, we come, we're deep now into, let's see, where were we? Third interception here. Jamo throwing to Jahmyr Gibbs. So it's 1st and 10 at the Detroit 46. It's 12-13, top of the fourth, right? Jahmyr's running a route to the sideline, but Jahmyr was blocking downfield. Jamo was supposed to run. And Dan Campbell said as much in his postgame that he wished that Jamo would have ran. But if you watch the play, Jahmyr has never really turned around. He is blocking downfield, expecting that Jamo's running that football. And when you watch the play happen, Jamo had some daylight, man. He had that outside corner. At least 6-7 yards could have happened, if not more, because we know that, Jamo's feet, man, you just never know. That guy catches light and he's gone.
Yeah, you saw what happened earlier in the game.
Right. So, in my opinion here, again, Ben Johnson, what are we doing here, dude? Why are you putting the ball in a receiver that hasn't thrown a football in a game all season long? Like, we're trying to do too much. Just play football. Yeah. There's 50 other plays that you could have called right there.
Just again, let him get the end around. Just let him go. I don't know if that was a Jamo freelancing or if that was supposed to be a planned run. I have no clue.
Well, it was an option. It was an option. That's what it was. It was an option play. So he has an option read if Gibbs is open, but Gibbs was not looking to be open. Gibbs was blocking, and he was way downfield blocking, expecting to probably hear Jamo running by him at any moment. But Jamo actually made a nice throw. I mean, it was actually a really good throw. It had a nice spiral to it. Good job. Wrong.
Yeah, but why didn't he just throw it out of bounds? I mean,
trying to make a play, but again, you're putting the ball in somebody that doesn't do this every day. He catches passes, he runs footballs, he does not throw them. You're putting our guys into a position in a high stress environment, and they got a 50-50 shot to get it right. Am I going to run it or am I going to pass it? And if I pass it, then I got another decision. Am I going to pass it inbounds or am I going to throw it away? It's too much. You're making the game more convoluted as you go. Commanders get 7 points off of that. So there you go. So you can look at, the fumble from the very beginning. Jared Goff, fumbles, and they get 7 points off of that. J-Mo throws an interception, they get 7 points off of that. So you can take those 14 points and not attribute, 7 to either or, Jared or J-Mo. They cancel each other out, right? So Jared's not fully responsible with all of these interceptions and all of these points. But I think that the blame here is Ben Johnson. I think that Ben Johnson is doing too much in this game. We're talking blame game a little bit today.
Yeah. Here, Mark Baylor, was Ben Johnson just showcasing his playbook? Is that what they're thinking? Him and JG, are they thinking, oh, we got to show out in this game instead of just going and trying to win the game? They're too worried about what they're going to do with their next team instead of worrying about what they're doing with their current team.
And I think that some of that was involved in this. I really do, Eric. I think that I said it last night. I said it right after the game. It felt like AG left the building and Ben Johnson shit the bed. I mean, that's exactly what I said. They didn't even show up.
They need to get rid of any, and I've said this before, they need to get rid of any and all head coaching anything until the Super Bowl is done.
I would agree with that, but last night I said this, and maybe you'd agree with this, but maybe not. I said, okay, when the last two teams are done, they're selected after the NFC Championship game, right? They win their games. Yep. They're going to the Super Bowl. You got 2 weeks. I think you got the Pro Bowl in between that now, right? So at that point, everybody but the last two teams should interview. Those 2 weeks after the NFC Championship game and before the Super Bowl, that is when you interview. Does it really make a difference in the NFL that you just did interviews the previous 2 weeks to today? Does that really set up your ball club any better than waiting until, one more week, essentially? Yeah, so you got to wait 3 weeks after your season ends, and you can do your interviews then. I think that is the best way to do it, and they need to fix it because this is mentally checking out other coordinators. As much as they'd like to think that they're peer professionals, we're all human.
Yep.
You get off into this daydream and you're starting to think about Vegas and sunshine and, all the bright lights of Vegas, or you're thinking about New York. And I mean, come on, let's be honest here. We're human. You're going to have your daydreams. And it probably started to happen during the game. He probably knew he's down, 14 points and he's thinking, yep, at least I'll be in Vegas next week. Hey, J-Mo, go throw a pass. I mean, come on, guys. So the last one here. The fourth interception, third for Jared Goff. 3rd and 10 at the Washington 17. Now, this is the very end of the game. Now, I wouldn't have put the guys in this position, right? You kick the field goal. I would have taken a touchdown try. Because if you take a touchdown try, at least then you know that your final play could have been a field goal to tie it up. We were going to have to come up with 2 onside kicks or an interception or a fumble to put us into a position to even have a chance in this game. Like Dan Campbell said, this last interception didn't even matter. It really didn't. It's 3rd and 10. You're at the Washington 17. There's 32 seconds left. We're in shotgun. Jared Goff, short middle, intended for Tim Patrick, intercepted by Jeremy Chin at the 2-yard line. I'm sorry, Jeremy Chin at the 9. I think he returned it 7 yards to the 9. Amon-Ra was wide open in the middle. But then again, there would have only been about 27 seconds left had they thrown it to Amon-Ra St. Brown in the middle, and he gets a few yards. Forget that it would have been 4th and short. I don't think we had any timeouts left at this juncture. I don't think we had any left. Maybe one, but I don't think so. In my opinion, throwing it into the middle didn't make any sense. They had to get an onside and score immediately anyway. So the game was over. This interception really did not matter. I mean, there's probably less than 0.5% chance that the Lions could have actually come back. Now, I know we've done it before. I know that there's been 30 seconds on the clock and we get the ball back and we're able to go downfield. Matthew Stafford did it. I've watched it many times. But this wasn't going to happen. Game was over. So again, when you look at the totality of the turnovers and the interceptions in this game, Jared Goff really had 2 interceptions that mattered. And J-Mo had an interception that mattered. And that fumble mattered. And to recap it, the fumble should have never happened because we should have never been passing in that situation. The first interception, Jared Goff, bad decision. Second interception by J-Mo, Ben Johnson, what the hell? Third interception, second interception by Jared Goff, actually. That's a 50-50 shot, in my opinion. Right call by Ben Johnson? Probably not. I think it's a good play. I think that J-Mo didn't do enough. The third interception, again, J-Mo throwing to Jahmyr Gibbs, bad call. You can't put J-Mo in that position. I can't blame J-Mo for everything right there. You can't. But just like I can't blame Jared Goff for everything. If I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to J-Mo to say that Ben Johnson shouldn't have put you in that position, I also have to say the same thing about Jared Goff in the first interception. Have to, because it just doesn't make sense that we're passing the ball. And then the fourth interception, the game was over. You know, what are you going to do? So really, in my opinion, agree or disagree, the fumble, not his fault. The first interception, his fault. The second interception to J-Mo, 50% his fault. The third interception, J-Mo throwing to Gibbs, 50% his fault. Not Goff, but J-Mo. And the fourth interception didn't matter. That's my final take on the interceptions. If you really want to discredit Jared Goff in this game and blame Jared Goff, I would advise just please go watch all the tape. I just painted a picture for you. That's exactly what happened. And honestly, I don't think that there's a lot of people in this world that look at the game of football and say Jared Goff is the reason why we lost this game. Because next I'm going to point to the defense. What's your final thoughts here on these interceptions and move on?
So this connects to it. There's something that's been going on for the second half of this season, I guess. And it's everybody getting ready to jump ship on Jared Goff. And it's all these people. I don't know if they're brand new Lions fans. I don't know if they're bandwagon fans from other teams or what. They are so easy to jump ship on Jared Goff. They're the same people that left in the fourth quarter and emptied the I want to say it, but I'm not gonna, the stadium. And they're the people that were on their phones when taking selfies when we're on defense. And my God, the fans didn't know how to fan at this game. That's all I'm going to say. And I was very, very disappointed in our fans. And all these people that are turning on Jared Goff, shame on you. Shame on you, man. Every one of you that are like, get rid of Goff and trade him away and have Ben Johnson take him with him to the Raiders and all this stupid bull crap. Without Jared Goff, we are not 15-2. We don't win the North back-to-back. We don't make it to the NFC Championship game last year. Jared Goff, in my opinion, is 90% of the reason that we made it to both. That's just me.
There's a couple of good points in here, and I apologize. I'm not going to be able to get to everybody's statements this morning. But Ryan Van Valkenburg says, even if the coaches were okay with the interview, I think it affects the players who are also thinking about it and could be a distraction to them. I think that that's a spot on take, man. You know, when you look at, as a matter of fact, Eric has a topic really kind of goes with this. I think that when you're looking at the guys that you've been around for the last 4 seasons or 3 seasons, however long you've been in Detroit, these are the coaches that you're endeared to, right? These are the guys that, you know, you've grown to love and have relationships with. And you're thinking, man, they're gone after this season. They're interviewing to leave. Why would they do that? You know, to me, well, it's part of the business, right? I mean, we're all professionals, right? It's part of the business. We get it. But to Ryan's point, that distraction, you're putting that seed of doubt into all of your players. that this guy maybe doesn't have your back today. Not thinking that they would absolutely think that, but you know what I'm saying? It could sow a little seed of doubt. I don't know. But you actually had another topic that kind of goes with this about Hank Fraley.
Yeah. And I got to tell you guys something before I get into this. Today is hard.
Yeah.
This is really effing hard to get on this show and do this today. This is beyond hard to do. It's like dealing with grief. Like it's like I had somebody die. It really is. It's over for the season, and it sucks. It sucks. It sucks. So I just wanted to say that this is hard to do today. You know, I couldn't even come up with a show sheet. I just couldn't bring myself to do it today. I had to just get on and talk. You know, I'm too out of my mind to even put my thoughts together correctly today. So there's something I came up with this morning. I came across an article by Justin Rogers. So early in the season, when Justin Rogers went out on his own, I became one of his founding members. So I get his emails every day. And I found his email today to be so much better than all the fluff and the crap that everybody else is putting out right now. So he puts out a headline on his article today, and it says, "Over their dead body." So over my dead body, right? Well, what's he talking about? Well, Ragnow's tone after Saturday's loss to the Washington remains somber, both because the team's season abruptly ended and the uncertainty of the future. And he says, "I think every year, every team faces it. We'll see what happens. This league, that's the one thing that sucks. It's never going to be the same team. We know that as players. And that's the frustrating part, again, about yesterday. Among the possible changes Ragnow's talking about is Ragnow's longtime position coach, Hank Fraley, who just did an interview with the Seattle Seahawks to become their offensive coordinator. So he asked Ragnow how he balanced wanting what's best for the people he cares about and possibly losing Fraley. And Ragnow insisted the later won't happen under his watch. "No, you refuse to let Frank leave. I haven't played in this league without Hank, and I don't plan on doing it. I'll sabotage him. I'll leak stories, whatever it takes. I don't think I could play in this league without that guy. He's everything to me. He's been here since day one in this league. There's a lot of coaches, but there are not many coaches like him that empower his players." And then Penei Sewell, he goes on and says, "He's not going anywhere at the end of the day. He's just been one of those pillars for me in this organization. When I first came in, I fell in love with him. I truly think he'd be great," Ragnow says. "He's a bright man. He's so creative in what he does with this offense. I know Ben Johnson gets a lot of credit or whatever, but that whole staff is really innovative and creative. They do a really good job." So over our dead bodies is what the offensive linemen are saying. They don't want Hank Fraley leaving. So don't think that this isn't weighing on their minds as well. That's a coach that's been with them since the beginning, since Dan put all this together.
Yeah, I think that Hank Fraley's been an absolute rock on this team. You know, he's like, to your article there, or whatever you're reading, he's been there since day one. I've always been in Hank Fraley's corner. I knew how important and how important he really has been to this team, to this offense. And he does deserve, you know, more opportunity in the league. And I do think that if we lose him, yeah, we could have some issues. These guys are pros on the offensive line, but I have to put a question on the offensive line right now. Our biggest, most important part of this team is the offensive line. In the way that this team is put together, that offensive line has to be operating at a very high level. And it did not yesterday. I know that, you know, a couple of guys like Mahogany had really good grades, but there's been some issues this season. You know, you've seen where, and maybe it's just because we're all spoiled, right? We've been spoiled with such an incredible offensive line that when shit kind of goes south, you know, we're all gasping for air, like what in the world is going on? But I've just kind of seen this pattern with this offensive line this season that something's just missing. I think that Brad Holmes is going to have to go out and really address this offensive line again. These guys are not getting any younger. Matter of fact, to kind of expand upon this, Taylor Decker said something yesterday that kind of threw me a little bit. And we heard this last year too. We started to think that Frank Ragnow was going to retire because of all of his injuries. But Frank Ragnow, and I'll bring all this stuff in here in a little bit, but Frank Ragnow had said that this is the best that he's ever felt really after a season. Mm-hmm. So that's great. That's great news. Not expecting him to retire right at this moment. But Taylor Decker said that he feels that some guys are going to move on, obviously. It's not going to be the same team next year. And some guys are going to retire. And I'm like, what? What is he talking about? Retire? Because when I look at this roster, which is where we're going to go next, let's look at some of these free agents, restricted free agents, exclusive rights free agents. Let's see if we can find anyone that's really going to retire. And before I really get to that, I do want to say this. To Eric's point, this is hard. Because when you're as invested, we're all invested fans. I'm not going to say that I'm a bigger fan than anyone else.
No.
But when you do this every day and you read thousands of articles in a season, and you write thousands of pieces, right? I mean, I can tell you this sheet, just so you guys understand, I write just about everything for my shows. I take bits and pieces from other really good writers and I highlight them, talk about them, I give them their credit. I have written 1,627,332 words this year. This season. 1,627,332 words. So to think that I'm not invested and to think that I haven't done a lot of research would be wrong. It'd be blasphemy. I'm as invested as everybody. But part of what I feel my job is offering the truth, the transparency, and the honesty about what's going on with our team. It's not always going to be roses, rainbows, and sunshine, right? It's not going to be unicorns flopping around in a nice green pasture. Some days are going to be hard. Some days you're not going to like my takes. But that's all part of this process. And today starts the healing process for a lot of fans. Actually, it started yesterday. But I would say that really today, after you slept on it for a couple of nights, now it starts to begin. And to Eric's point, it's like grieving for the loss of a loved one. I mean, I don't know if I could put it to that degree, but I'd say it's pretty tough that when you're as invested as we are, you know, Eric has been part of this show now for over a year. And he's just as invested. He just had the best year of his life as a Lions fan. Eric has had an amazing season this year, getting to all these games and meeting a lot of new people and has really enjoyed every bit of it. He's an invested fan. He's finally living out his dream. And then he can explain all that. But I've watched it. It's been fun to watch. You know, someone that's actually getting to do this. And you know, I feel blessed that I've been able to do it for 25 years. Not gone to every game, haven't gone to every away game, but we're going to try to do something different this year. I'm going to try to actually have these bus trips ready. So now that the season's over, in about a month or so, the bus trips are going to be scheduled. There's going to be, we don't know what dates they're going to be, but we're going to start accepting deposits for the bus trips so that we have plenty of time to pay for next season and to do some of these away games. I've already communicated to the other ball clubs and got my name in line for groups of tickets because I want to take it to the next level. I want 50 of us going to the away games together and creating a community that's even better and bigger than what we have right now. And I think it's going to be fun. But I know it's hard, and I know that today is tough, and everyone's going to have their takes about Jared Goff or anybody else. I can point my fingers at everybody in this game, just like I did last year in the NFC Championship. And you know what? There's still people that don't agree with that. There's still people that don't agree with how the NFC Championship went down, and that's okay. And that's the one thing that I want people to understand today is it's okay that people in the chat right now don't agree with each other. But you know what? These same people are going to be here tomorrow, and they're going to be here next year.
Yep.
And we're going to start anew. And that's the most important thing is we get another season next year.
Yeah.
We get to try again.
Yeah. And dude, I am super proud of our daily listeners that are all in here today. There's over 200 people watching right now. And to me, that tells you we're doing something right to have that many people still tuning in on the Monday after we lost in the divisional round. You know, so that goes to these people that they still want the content. They still want the Lions. They all want to get together and grieve together over this. And, you know, I went to the game and we lost the game, unfortunately. And I get back to my Airbnb about an hour and a half, 2 hours later. So it's like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I look at my phone and I have like 20 messages and I'm like, oh crap, here we go. It's going to be people gloating and getting in my face, whatever, you know, calling the Lions frauds, yada, yada, yada. Open that very first message and it just says, thank you. Thank you for going to all the games and bringing me along. It was awesome.
Yeah. It's the same thing that we see on the show. We get so many messages of hope, and I get to hear so many other people's stories, and that's what this channel is really about. It's not about me. It's about you. That's what the channel was created about. It was created for fans to enjoy, you know, something maybe a little bit different. We're gonna have different takes than other people. That doesn't make me right or wrong or indifferent than anybody else. They can have their own takes. I'm gonna disagree with whatever I disagree with. I have no problem saying it, but I'm not going to go and criticize somebody. You know, I'm not going to try and tear somebody down. You know, I'm an adult. I'm not a child. I'm not going to play high school games, right? We're going to talk about it. Agree to disagree. Move on. It's that simple. Yeah. And if you want to agree or disagree, you can always call in. So,
and I'll say this too, man, don't tell other fans how to fan. Let them fan, man. If they want to criticize Ben Johnson, let them criticize Ben Johnson. If they want to go root for the Chiefs now, go let them root for the Chiefs now. It doesn't matter, man. Let everybody fan the way they're going to fan. Don't criticize people for being fans.
Absolutely. Ed O'Neill wants to call in. So Ed, why don't you give us a call, man? 313-312-0348. Let's take a couple of calls, and then I want to get into free agency. And to, you know, Taylor Decker's point, he thinks that there's going to be some people that are retiring. I'd like to know who these people are, who these players are, because looking at this roster, I don't see it. Hold on here.
The only one I could think of is Graham Glasgow or himself.
Hey, this is Will with Rock Down Detroit Lions. Hey, good morning, Ed. Give me 1 second. I'll bring you right in, okay? Yep.
All right, we got a caller. We've been asking for this for weeks.
All right, Ed, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys. Good morning.
All right, we got you, buddy. Good morning. So, take it away, man. The next 3 minutes are yours.
Yes, thank you. All right. I just want to point out, right? So this is why I don't want to blame the defense, okay? So we know what situation we were in with our defense, all the injuries, right? Same thing last year, our defense was not that good, okay? So I don't blame I'm not going to blame the defense this year. I didn't blame them last year because we knew what situation we were in. It would be different if everyone was healthy and the defense was top 3 all year long, and then they just went and threw up a stinker in the playoffs, you know? And ultimately, in my opinion, like even after the pick 6 and the fumble, the one turnover that really like put the nail in the coffin for us was the one at the end of half. because if we would have gotten points there, we would have either been down by 3 or down by 7, and we ultimately got a stop coming out of halftime, so we would have either taken the lead or tied up the game. So the game was just it literally just felt like watching the Lions. They couldn't get out of their own ways. It was just like mental error, you know? And unfortunately, that happened, and it is what it is. The one thing I do want to bring up is in the last 3 seasons, we have played a Dan Quinn defense, 2 times with Dallas and 1 time with Washington. And I don't know if it's just Dan Quinn has Jared Goff's number, but Goff has 3 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in those 3 games.
It's a good point.
And just real quick, it's not about like for me, I'm not saying, hey, Goff isn't the guy, whatever, but at least for me, like I'm also a Yankees fan, and I care about what you do in the playoffs. And while Goff didn't cost us last year, he is responsible. He was a part of the reason why we didn't advance this year,
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like, you can give me all the great stats in the regular season, but ultimately we all won a Super Bowl, and you need to be a part of the reason why we can win the Super Bowl. And he showed me that last year. So it's not for me, it's not about me saying, oh, like Goff isn't the guy. He is the guy. It's just, it was the worst time to have a bad game considering our defensive situation. And that's all.
All right. Thanks, Ed. I'm going to answer it off air, okay?
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too, man. Bye-bye. So, good point. Honestly, didn't know that about the Dan Quinn defense perspective, so I'm going to research that one today. But I will say this. I know you don't want to blame the defense because there was a bunch of injuries, and I think that is a very fair point that a lot of us have recognized throughout this season that we weren't playing with a full deck here. We went 15-2, and there's a ton of people that are taking that record and putting it up on a pedestal, but you're forgetting how we got there. We got there without large majority of our starters on defense, without our number 1 edge rusher, Aiden Hutchinson. Our number 2, Davenport, goes down before that. And then it was just a domino effect. Mekhi Wingo's gone. Then Ali McNeil is gone. I felt that, if we had Ali McNeil in this game yesterday, would have been a much different situation. If we had Carlton Davis in this game yesterday, much different situation. The injuries did become too much to overcome. But yesterday, it's not so much about blaming the defensive guys. See, I don't think I put any blame on anyone independently yesterday other than Aaron Glenn. It was the defense that we ran that was the problem. It wasn't the personnel, because you know what? That same personnel, their best game was week 18 of this year with the same guys. Why on earth did Aaron Glenn put him in that situation yesterday?
Well, in the fourth quarter, it wasn't the same personnel, though. It was Morris Norris and some guy that I couldn't even say his last. I didn't even know the name on the back of the friggin' jersey. They both came up from the practice. Yeah, they both came up from the practice squad. I didn't even know who they were out there.
Well, it's funny. He got elevated just before the game. And yeah, I mean, the game was already lost to that point, right? And we had a large majority of the same guys that were there in week 18. But yeah, if he went down with a hamstring, Brian Branch was banged up almost immediately in this game. Amik Robertson goes down immediately. Yeah, now it is a different squad, and I think that we were playing as good as we could. If AG would have just been less aggressive, why do you think the Bills had success against the Ravens? Because they recognize that up against an RPO type system, you can't put your guys at a disadvantage. If you blitz everybody, or a large majority of the guys, you have now just made the entire defense vulnerable. And this is against a quarterback that was the number 1 quarterback in the league against the blitz this season, Jaden Daniels. Did he just not respect him? Did he think that, this is a rookie, we're going to get after him?
And we didn't get after him once. Not one sack.
We didn't need sacks. But the point is you blitzed trying to put pressure on Daniels and to get a sack, and it hurt you. Now, I know what the other people are going to say. Well, we need more pass rush. They had plenty of pass rush yesterday, but you're not going to get home against Jaden Daniels, who runs a 4.35 40 that can just get out of there in a hurry and then find somebody that's open. And that's another point that I do want to make about the defense. We can't blame just Brad Holmes on a lot of this stuff. We can't say that Brad Holmes should have done more. Can we be real for a minute? Can we have a real conversation here? Please hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
You lost 16 defensive players to IR very quickly this season. We had more than half of our defensive starters out in this game that started the season. When you get up to the trade deadline, do you honestly think that we're going to pull in 6 new starters that are making top wages in the NFL? That is the only way that you could have saved this team with the defense that we had. If you think that we should have done more, because that's just not, I mean, that is so far removed from being anything close to what happens in the NFL. Go back and look at all the trade deadlines. If there is more than 5 moves in a season, that's a ton at the trade deadline. If you bring in more than 1 or 2 people at the trade deadline, that's a ton, because you typically do not have room on your roster. You can't bring these guys and put them on a practice squad. They have to go direct to your roster. So for the people out there saying, I blame Brad Holmes because he didn't do enough at the trade deadline, there's nothing else that you can do. And throughout the season, it's not like you can just bring in a bunch of starters. Where are you going to find them? If they weren't there before week 1, they're not going to be there after week 1. We got another caller. Give me just one second.
And that's like one thing I talked about a few weeks ago. I said, how lucky were we in the beginning of the season to have the defense that we had coming out of training camp, where Will said, this is the best Lions defense I've ever seen coming out of training camp. How lucky were we? We didn't know how good we had it. We didn't. We had this amazing defense and we didn't even know it.
Yeah. And you know, the point is, and I don't know whoever called, they hung up, but the point here is we were set up. We had a phenomenal defense. I mean, we were a top 7 defense at the end of the season with half of our starters missing. Yep, there's some stats that weren't great. That is part of the defense that we run. When you're up by 20, 30 points, you're going to give up some stats. Of course, we would have loved to have seen some better statistical categories, but honestly, the stats really don't matter. What really mattered is how we win, and we win the games. We went 15-2. We won the games. Some games were offensive driven, some games were defensive driven, some games were a combination of both. But again, you can't replace 6 starters. You can't replace 2 or 3 edge rushers on a defense in the middle of a season. It is so highly unlikely and improbable. It's never really happened. Tell me a team, please someone point to a team that has lost 6 starters, 2 edge rushers, 2 starting edge rushers, and then replace both of them during the same season.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. And the reason why is because if you think that we could have brought in Myles Garrett or Crosby, well, they have to be available. They're not available. So you're willing to give up 2, 3, 4 first-round picks? You're going to sell out the farm for the next three seasons? That's not going to happen, right? That would be the dumbest move. This team would go back into the tank, back to SOL by 2026. You can forget about it. It'd be done. You have to continue building this roster the way that they've been building it. Now, I do expect in this next draft, like I said, throughout this entire season, I do expect for us to get a defensive end, whether it is free agent or draft or both, so that we have some depth, because there's going to be some guys that we're going to lose, and that's what I want to talk about next. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying here. Like, you just can't replace guys like that. It's not probable. It doesn't happen. There's not any other team out there that's done it. Yeah. So let's go through the restricted free agents. Taylor Decker said some guys might retire. And I really just don't know who other than Kevin Zeitler. Like, we just signed Graham Glasgow this offseason. Okay, so is Glasgow going to retire? I don't know. Maybe.
He's the only one I would think maybe, because he's slipping.
Well, I think Zeitler too.
Well, Zeitler had a great year.
No, age-wise.
Yeah, but I'm talking about performance-wise with Glasgow. He really slipped this year. He is not the player he was last year when we re-signed him.
But he was the right guard last year, and he played great on the right side. For whatever reason, on the left side, he just wasn't playing that well.
Mm-hmm. And
I think part of that is because of Taylor Decker. I know a lot of people still love Taylor Decker. I do too. I think he's a phenomenal dude. He said also yesterday, you can't blame Jared Goff. He said the same thing that everyone, that I talked to says. There's 22 starters on this team. There's enough blame to go around. But I think Taylor's, he got beat so many times this season easily, but he's also played well at times too. It's just this mix of a bag that I'm a little bit worried about. We need a lockdown left tackle. Lockdown. And I'm sorry, Gio is probably not going to be ready next year for anything more than a backup role. He's at least a 3-year project is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
So that's where I could play some. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We were talking about Gio in the pregame because he's right down in front of me. And dude, there is something physically about him that I want you to look at the next time you go to a Lions game or practice or whatever, and you're watching them just getting ready. His calves are bigger than the rest of the offensive linemen's thighs. His calves are just huge. They're like pumpkin calves or something. When he gets it, watch out. When he gets his footwork down and gets the speed of this NFL game down, he is going to be another great like Penei Sewell in a couple of years. I think he is the future. Now, he may not be the future this next year, maybe another year or two. Like you said, it might be a project where he comes in year 3, year 4 to finally be a starter, but I see him getting some snaps next year.
Well, I hope so. It's been a blessing to see what Mahogany has done. Now the only thing that I could blame Brad Holmes for, and this is a reach, I'm really reaching to do this. When you look at what he's drafted, okay, we can go to Broderick Martin and say, did you really need to take Broderick there?
Yeah.
I mean, did you really need a 3-year project? And then Gio, did you really need another 2 to 3 year project? Probably not. Emmanuel Mosley, why did you bring him back? I mean, I knew that was such a long shot. The guy didn't do anything. For all the people that hated on me this year when I said Emmanuel Mosley wasn't going to be the guy, he wasn't going to get an opportunity, he wasn't going to resurrect his career in Detroit, too many injuries, too big of a risk. Why are we doing it? Why are we wasting a roster spot? I'm not trying to be mean or mean-spirited towards Emmanuel Mosley. It's just the business part of it. I think you have to look at it with a sharper knife. And for me, I wouldn't have taken that risk. For Broderick Martin, there may not have been another defensive tackle after we took Broderick Martin that had anything close to that size or ability or the raw ability. And that's very true. But if you wanted to have another game changer on that defensive line, then you should have taken Kobe Turner. You should have taken Will McDonald. You should have taken some of the other players. And I know these are guys that I've identified. So of course I'm a little bit, I like the guys that, that I've looked at, but they may not be the right fits for this team. They may not be. But if you really needed a game changer, it probably wasn't Broderick Martin. You probably could have taken another corner, another safety, another receiver. You could have taken something other than Broderick at that moment. And the same thing for Gio. Massive athlete, huge upside, love everything about the guy. But if you needed another game changer on this roster this season, he wasn't the pick. But then I think if you look at it logistically and a little bit more analytically, Eric, there's only so many guys that can start on a game. And so you have plenty of healthy scratches, right? It's 5 or 6 healthy scratches a week.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a healthy scratch every week.
Yep. Now, if I was to tell you that the tables were flipped, that Mahogany was the 3rd round pick and Manu was the 6th round pick, then no one would have an issue with the way that this went down. that the way he drafted him. But because we traded up and took Manu as a project, and I think he did it because he was scared that someone like the Eagles or someone else was going to snag Manu. I think he was getting a lot of hype, and Brad just didn't want to miss out on Manu. He thought he could get a future left tackle when Taylor Decker retires in a couple of years.
Yeah. All right. Restricted free agents. So restricted free agents, these are players with 3 accrued NFL seasons, and they're on an expired contract. So we should be finding out here in the next 24 hours probably of players that are going to be tendered to futures contracts, if that already hasn't happened. But it should be happening over the next couple of days. So these restricted free agents can sign with any team, but their original team has a window to offer a qualifying offer before that. Okay, so that's going to be Craig Reynolds. It's going to be Shane Zielstra, Coyote Iwasaka, and Anthony Pittman. And then the defensive lineman that we picked up, Miles Adams. Out of all of these players, I would probably say that Craig Reynolds and Shane Zielstra are probably the only 2 that might be back. I'm not impressed with Coyote. Mahogany's played in, very impressively. And to, the Manu point, maybe he gets some more snaps next year after fixing some of his footwork, maybe getting his weight, where it needs to be. I think that we'll have a step up from Manu. Definitely Mahogany. Mahogany's probably going to be a starter next year. Anybody else you think that should be coming back?
No, that was the only 2 I was thinking while you were reading off that list.
Okay.
And just so everybody knows in the chat, this DB Cooper is broski. Just ignore him, please.
Oh,
that's all I'm going to say about it. Just ignore him.
Okay. I didn't even notice that in there.
Yeah, he's trying to cause crap.
So exclusive rights free agents. To answer your question, Pittman. What about Pittman? I mean, we brought Pittman back, because we needed a linebacker. He wasn't on this squad, so that's why. I don't think that we're going to keep him around. I mean, we poached him, off practice squad, so I don't think he'll be back. Exclusive rights free agents, according to the NFL anyway, an exclusive rights free agent is any player with fewer than 3 accrued seasons, and they are on an expired contract or expiring contract. If his original team offers him a 1-year contract at the league minimum, the player cannot negotiate with other teams. I love that part. So that his linebacker, Trevor Nowaski, offensive guard center, Michael Neese, defensive end, Mitchell Agood, offensive tackle, Connor Galvin, and safety, Morris Norris. Now, given the fact that we have 40 players under contract right now, and if we were keeping Craig and Shane, that gives us 42. I think that Trevor Nowaski will be back. I think that Mitchell Agood will be back. But Michael Neese, Connor Galvin, and Morris Norris, possibly not back. Out of all of those, Michael Neese might be the only one that I feel is needed because he has some work in at center. So Trevor Nowaski, Michael Neese, and Mitchell Agood, I feel those 3 have a good opportunity. And you're talking league minimum, so you're talking like $1 million deal.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else you think or any different?
Brad being the Brad that he is, he'd probably keep all of them.
Okay, so now we have unrestricted free agents. Still haven't found anybody that's retiring yet. So now we get into the Carlton Davis, Kevin Zeitler, Levi Onwuzurike, Derek Barnes, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Tim Patrick, Dan Skipper, Marcus Davenport, John Kaminsky, Khalil Dorsey, Pat O'Connor, Al-Quddin Muhammad, Ben Nyman, Kendall Vildor, Emmanuel Mosley, Teddy Bridgewater, Michael Badgley, Kyle Picot, Allen Robinson, Ezekiel Turner, Netnani Moody, Jonah Williams, and Quan Alexander. So I'm just going to go ahead and put some of these guys to the right side of my list. And I'm going to start with Carlton Davis. Do you think Carlton Davis should come back next year? If so, how much do you think? He made about $15 million on this first deal. I think 10 was this year and 5 is next year.
If we can get him for 15, Give him a 2-year deal, 15 each. That's what I would offer. If he doesn't want it, then we'll find someone else. Because exactly what the Tampa Bay Bucks fans warned us about is exactly what happened. He's an amazing player. He's really good, but he misses 23% of the games.
Yeah, that's the number that I figured out when I went through all of his games. He missed 23% of the games that he was available to play. Now, this year just happened because of a crazy injury.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
who gets a broken jaw or fractured jaw? I mean, that just doesn't happen.
he missed a game or two before that because of hamstring or something. I can't remember.
So Lincoln Clay, $5 super chat. Thank you. Appreciate it. Has got to keep O'Connor and Patrick.
Oh, Tim Patrick for sure.
I liked him.
And Pat O'Connor came in and he did admirable.
Henry of M Dad says knock off 23% of his pay. Well, here's what Over the Cap thinks. Over the Cap thinks that he's worth $14.8 million a year. But then for some reason they drop it all the way down to $3.562 million. That's not even close.
No.
So I think that he's probably worth that $15 million range. Again, I haven't studied any of this, so I haven't gone deep off and do a bunch of evaluations between him and like 10 other corners of his age and skill and, grade and all that. So that's what I'm going to start doing now over the next couple of weeks. But Carlton, if the money is right, just like Eric said, if the money is right, I think that you would want to have him back. However, if there's another veteran that is as good or better than Carlton, I do believe this. The Lions must have a veteran DB, veteran corner as our number 1 or 2. We do have Amik Robertson coming back. And by the way, Amik went under successful surgery for his broken arm. He's doing well, so he should be back and ready to go before OTAs. But he did have a successful surgery. So big ups to Amik Robertson, man. What an excellent season for you. Yeah. And I'm glad that you never doubted yourself when everybody thought that you were a backup, which this channel never said you were, by the way.
No, that dude's got the heart of a lion. I love Amik. And I knew right away that he broke his arm. Friendly fire once again, just like the Anzalone injury. And it was Jack Campbell coming in and he hit him right in the arm. And listen, when he was walking off with the trainers, I was like, it's broke. Look, it's broke. And everybody's like, oh, no, he's fine. I'm like, no, he broke it. It snapped. And when I saw this morning the actual like little snippet of when he got hurt and they show his arm, oh my God, not fun to look at. Not fun at all.
Yeah.
What was all the broken bones this year? We got 2 broken arms. You got Anzalone and Amik, and then you had Khalil Dorsey snap his leg, and then you have Hutch snap his leg. I've never seen so many broken bones in a season before.
Yeah, they need some vitamin D, some calcium. They need something. Drink some milk. I don't know. Whatever they're not doing, they're not getting enough sustenance or something, because that's just crazy. You just don't see that many broken bones usually. But, it's football, man. Shit happens.
Yeah.
So in the chat here, there's a question. Why aren't comp picks given to teams that lose players when they were impact players or Pro Bowlers to retirement, and only give comp picks to teams that lose a player to another team? I don't know. I think that's just the way the NFL does it, unfortunately. So looks like a lot of people would love to see Davis back. Of course, a lot of people support Amik. I'm glad that we have Amik next year. And
wasn't it kind of weird that we only signed Carlton Davis to a 1-year deal after giving up a 3rd-round pick for him?
Yeah, I mean, we took in his contract. And we could have renegotiated, but he was under contract. So I guess when you look at it, he was already under contract. We didn't sign him to anything. If anything, what we did is we renegotiated his contract to relieve some cap space, and that still kept it as a 1-year deal. And I want to say it shaved $5 million off to go on to next year's, this upcoming season as a void year. Now,
I'm just wondering why they didn't, put it together with a 2 or a 3-year package.
Well, I think they wanted to see. I mean, I'm sure they had a little bit of question about his, ability and or his injury history. Maybe that they wanted to see, what he was going to be all about. And I think that he passed the test. I don't think that you can really blame him for this broken, fractured jaw.
No.
Every time he did get banged up this year, he would bounce right back into the game for the most part.
Well, he broke his thumb too, didn't he?
Yeah, and he still played. I think he was out one game, I think.
Yeah, and still got 2 interceptions. But like, to me, if I'm going to give up a 3rd-round pick for a player on a 1-year rental, before the end of that 1-year rental, I'm going to make sure that he's under contract for another year or two, especially if he has a season like the season they just had. They can negotiate during the season. They can make something happen.
Yeah.
That's just me. I just thought it was kind of weird that we didn't have him locked up by the end of the season. I thought he played well enough to earn another contract with the Lions.
Hold on here. I'm trying to go back and look at a couple of things. Oh, yeah. It's not about disagreement. We just don't do politics on this channel. No politics ever.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you do politics, you get warned. If you do it again, you get timed out. It's that simple. We don't do politics.
Yeah, we understand.
There's a football channel. I think we're all smart enough to know what the next couple of days are.
Yeah. Today is a very politically charged day. I get that, but this is Lions football, nothing else.
Yeah. You want to talk politics? We can start another channel and talk politics. But you better bring your research, because that is one thing I know a lot about. All right, so Carlton Davis, I think if the money's right, bring him back. Absolutely, bring him back. I love what he did for this team.
Just got a super chat, man.
What's that? We got another one?
Super chat. Yeah, from Michael Erickson.
Yep, Michael Erickson, super chat. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate the donation. Says we need to re-sign Carlton Davis. He is good. I think I'm in agreement there. I'm definitely in agreement there. Appreciate your donation.
If we offered him a 3-year deal at $45 million, $30 million guaranteed, would you let him have that contract?
30 at 3?
Yeah, well, $45 million contract with $30 million guaranteed for 3 seasons.
I would say yes without doing any research. Let me do the research and figure out how that stacks up against the rest of the corners. But I would say, $10 million a year guaranteed is not bad, but I think there needs to be a couple of things written into that contract for injury.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I'd have to do the research to see where these contracts line up. All right, so defensive line, Levi Onwuzurike. Look, this guy had a commendable season. I think that he played fairly well. He wasn't as dominant as we had hoped he was going to be. But coming back from this crazy back injury, I said it last night, as much as I love Levi and I love his hard work, and I feel like I assimilate to him, having the neck and back injuries myself and having the fusions, what he has gone through and what he has put forward this season, what a dog, man. Just an absolute great season for this guy. Really happy for him. Would I bring him back? His contract would have to be perfect, right? Because if I was a football GM, I would say, look, great year. Glad you're back on your feet. I don't know that I can risk investing a ton of money into you. So you're going to have to hit the market and look, see what you can get. And if we feel like it's right for us, we'll give you, an opportunity to come back. But I would stay as far away from these big, massive injuries as I could. Some guys you can't do anything about, right? Like Aiden Hutchinson and his broken leg. He's already under contract. He ain't going anywhere. No. So, but guys like this that are on expiring deals, I think you would let Levi probably test the market.
Well, this is what Levi thinks about it. He says, they were all about making sure I could hold my kids when I had them. And they made sure I could function as a human before being a football player.
Love it.
So the Detroit Lions made sure before he could even play a down of football after these back surgeries that he could walk and function as a human. And he said he's not going to forget it. He says, I love Detroit. Whatever happens, happens. If they want me, that would be great. But it's the NFL, so we'll see. And those are quotes right from Levi O. he knows this is a business, and he knows he might not be back. But what's the first thing out of his mouth? Hey, they made sure I could be there when my kids were born, and they made sure I could walk before I was a football player again.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes to the type of character, right, that they have in this front office. They're not as, as shady as what the NFL business has been known to be. They wanted to make sure that he was a person first, right? Not just a number on a field.
Yep.
I love Levi and what he's put together, but again, because it is a football business, I would probably let him test the market and then get him a comparable offer to bring him back. That's just how I would do it.
Yeah.
What about Derek Barnes?
Derek Barnes he was on a trajectory. So if you go back to the last real meaningful game he played with us, or one of the last meaningful games, was against Tampa in the playoff game where he got the interception and sealed the game for us. And then we went to the NFC Championship game. He was so there. Get into the regular season this year, and he gets blindside blocked into his knee and blows out his knee. I think he was on a trajectory to be in line for a very decent, not like a record-breaking contract or anything, but a decent contract, and I don't know if the Lions necessarily would have been able to afford the contract that he would have gotten had he not gotten injured. So this might be the time where the Lions swoop in and get him at a deal compared to what he would have gotten had he not gotten hurt. Because I think he was on a pretty good trajectory with the Lions to be in line to get a pretty decent contract. Not a record-breaking contract, but a pretty decent contract where the Lions may have let him go test free agency because of it, because of the money.
I would say that if he's worth more than $4 million a year, then probably out. When you look at what we signed Alex Anzalone for, which was $6 million a year, Derek is not, in my opinion, better than Alex. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a great player. So I think that you're correct in the assumption here that the contract has to be right. Maybe it's a 2-year prove it style of deal. Maybe it's just a 1-year prove it style of deal. But I would like to see Derek come back. At a minimum, it's depth. I do believe that the Lions are going to go after some linebackers in free agency and in the draft. I think that it only makes sense right now. Alex is getting a little bit older. Matter of fact, Alex's contract, I'm not even sure when it expires. It might be next year. This might be his last year. So we have to have guys in the funnel. I talk about roster roulette. It is something that I developed. And we're going to be talking more about this stuff as we get through the season. But roster roulette it's a whole program that I put together and in a grading system that I put together and been pretty damn close. The last couple of drafts, not only for the Lions, but other players where they were taken. And I think that when we look at what's available this season coming out of the college ranks, there's going to be some limited opportunity for edge rushers and linebackers, in my opinion, that are at the top tier level in the area where the Lions are picking. If we somehow get some 3rd-round compensatory picks this year, Brad is going to be grinning ear to ear, because he'll be able to move around and do what he needs to do to find the players that make sense for this team. This can't be a year for any more projects. Like, we need guys that can hit the ground running, which, like I said earlier, I can't really knock Brad Holmes a whole lot, because when you look at the players that he's drafted, how many Pro Bowls and All Pros has he selected? Like, how many All Pros, just All Pros, has he selected? It's crazy. I don't think that there's another GM that's done that, but I'm going to find out. We'll do a whole piece on it. So Derek, I have him in the maybe category. Kevin Zeitler, I have him in the maybe category, and Levi, I have him in the maybe category. The only player that I have in right now is Carlton Davis, but all of these are going to require the money to be right.
Mm-hmm.
How about Ifeatu Melifonwu?
Let him test free agency.
I would agree with that. His injuries, for whatever reason, this season, just too much.
Yeah.
And if he has battled injury ever since he's been in the NFL, it has been a constant with him.
when you have a finger, and that's the reason you're not playing, and Carlton Davis is out there with a club getting interceptions, just not enough grit for me.
Yep. Tim Patrick.
I want him back 1,000,000%. Give him a 3-year deal.
I thought that Tim had an extra year, but I guess he doesn't. So look, for me, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to go as far as a 3-year deal, but I would definitely give him a 1-year deal, possibly 2. But at the end of the day, we're not really negotiating contracts today or looking at contracts. It's either in or out. So Tim, I want to see him back. We definitely need the depth in the wide receiver room, and I do believe the Lions are going to go after a receiver in the draft. Skipper, what about Dan Skipper?
Oh, I want Skipper back.
Skipper's in my maybe category. I love Dan. I think he's perfect for the city. He made the 53 last year for his first time. He's only in my maybe category because of what we have coming up and what I expect the Lions are probably going to do in this draft, which is more than likely bring in at least one more guard and a center. They can also play the guard position. And then we've got Gio. Depends on what happens with Gio. Is he going to be able to step up and play and be that swing tackle? Possibly. So I'm going to put him in the maybe category, but I want Skipper back. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now Skipper, he's a locker room guy. He's a city guy. And listen, when Taylor Decker went down for a game or two this year, who filled in for him? Skipper. And Skipper did an admirable job for a backup.
Absolutely.
I thought he did excellent. I know he wasn't the highest graded offensive lineman the weeks that he filled in, but for being a backup, damn, dude, he did an amazing job. And he's a mountain of a human being, man. I love having that great big dude on the team. And every time Skipper reports, man, the crowd goes crazy. I wish they wouldn't, but it's fun to see.
Yeah. How about Marcus Davenport? So Marcus Davenport in the early offseason, right, when we brought this guy in through free agency, everyone was talking trash about him.
Mm-hmm.
I was really high on Davenport. I thought that he was going to be a perfect fit for this team. He was exactly what we needed on the other side of Aiden as far as crushing the can, setting the edge. And he in my opinion, Marcus Davenport was the best edge setter that we had on this team. And he played incredibly well. Had Paris Johnson, in my opinion, intentionally broke or intentionally, hurt his arm, which I think it separated his tricep from the bone.
Yeah.
I think that Marcus Davenport was going to be on, this plane this season that was going nothing but straight up. He was playing really well. I think that, for all the people that hated on him and were worried about his injury history, well, look, you can't do anything about an intentional injury. Again, I put the video out. I still feel that it's intentional. Had he not got injured, I think that even if we had Marcus Davenport in this game this past weekend, we would have had a better opportunity because the way he sets the edge. Yep. I would love to see Marcus come back. It has to be the right contract. It can't be anything egregious. What's weird is we didn't hear anything about him since he went down. I haven't heard anything about his recovery.
You want to know something though? I've seen him on the sidelines.
Did you?
Yep. A couple times during different games. And he was up in the box with all the injured players when Alex Anzalone was still injured. It was him, Derek Barnes, Davenport, and there was one other guy. They were all up in the box together with Hutch. So it's nice to see that they're still hanging around and going to the games and there for their fellow teammates. They feel they're still a part of it, not just, hey, I'm an injured guy that was on the team.
Right. John Kaminsky. I think John Kaminsky's time is probably gone.
Yeah.
He's going to have to test free agency for me. Khalil Dorsey. He's kind of been the bubble guy, right? He's barely making it, so he's probably going to test free agency. Pat O'Connor, really loved what he did this season. I'm going to put him in the maybe category. Again, this is a guy that we picked up because we needed help.
Mm-hmm.
Played really well at times. He's a depth guy for camp at this point. So when I put him in the maybe category, it's either has to be a perfect contract or you're looking at depth guys entering training camp, and then, you're just going to weed them out from there. Al-Quddin Muhammad, I want him back. I'm not overly impressed with his production this season. He is a little bit, on the older side as far as he's been in the league for a minute.
Yep.
But I think that him as a depth player, as a rotational player, will be much better than having to be into his starting position like he was.
Yeah. And that's like Saturday. I didn't hear his name once.
Yeah. Just rough day. Ben Nyman, I want him back. Solid special teamer. Somebody that played incredibly well when he had to. Again, I look at him for a depth guy, right? He's a 90-man training camp guy, has to re-earn his spot on this squad. And I think that when we have a healthy team again, our rotational effort has to be to that level. He just got a ton of snaps this year. And I think for that reason, you need to bring some of these guys back that are, really good in your system. I think the biggest question is if or when we lose Aaron Glenn, the system hopefully stays the same. If it doesn't stay the same, well, then we are going to need all new players. I doubt that we go to a 3-4. At least I couldn't imagine us going to a 3-4. And if we do, hell, nobody really fits a 3-4. We don't have it. We don't have the outside linebackers. Kendall Vildor, test free agency for me.
Yeah, he can go.
Emmanuel Mosley, gone, in my opinion.
Yep.
Teddy Bridgewater, we'll see you back next year in the playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah. Michael Badgley, don't need you.
Nope.
He might be a camp body just, to put some guys around him. Kyle Pecco, really loved what Kyle Pecco was doing. Again, for rotational depth on the defensive line, if we had Kyle Pecco, late in this season, I think that he would have been very helpful when we were, very light and having some struggles, especially when Lee McNeil went down. The Kyle Pecco for me is a maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, and I want a favor from the football gods next year, this next season for 2025. Can players like Pecco and O'Connor and these other guys, if we resign them, can they just be backup players and maybe fill in for 1 or 2 games this year and not have to start the entire season?
So you're asking for health?
Yes. Can our starters just stay semi-healthy? I know people are going to miss a game or 2 here and there, but can we please not have 20-something people on IR next year? Can we have 5 or 6?
Yeah, I don't even want that.
But it happens. Look at every single team has 5 or 6 guys on IR. Now, we just happen to be devastated. Can we stay semi-healthy next year? just please. Because the year before, our defense was amazingly healthy.
Yeah, it's nuts how we were in a really prime position last year, and we were in a even better position this year, and it all fell apart. So the last few guys, Allen Robinson, age, obviously he's not going to be back. I don't think, he's somebody that, you pick up throughout the season if you need it. He might be the only guy that I see that could retire at this point. He's been in the league for a long time. Linebacker Ezekiel Turner. Look, this dude was he was burnt toast on a lot of plays. He was biting way too hard. Does not read the play action very well. No. I think that, you've got to be out on that guy. No. Netnani Moody, I really don't know enough about him, barely got to see any of them at all. And I'm not just sold on just keeping guards around. I think that there's going to be some options available in free agency. So for me, I'm out on him. Quan Alexander, again, he's been bouncing around. We let him go. I don't think that he's coming back.
No.
But Jonah Williams from the Rams, he still gives me that maybe if he's coached up continually and he might have an opportunity to be somebody. But I don't think that he's going to come back right away. I'm going to put him in my maybe. So for my maybes, I've got Kevin Zeitler because he could be a guy that retires. His contract was not crazy. But again, we got a couple of guys coming up that could be good, like Christian Mahogany, and we don't know what's going to happen with Manu, but I definitely think that we're going to find a guard center in this draft. Levi Onwuzurike, it's got to be the right contract. Derek Barnes has to be the right contract. Skipper, he's a glue guy, and it has to be the right contract. Davenport, I think that there was too much meat left on the bone for him to not come back. I think that he was a great fit. And if you have, Davenport, Smith, and Hutchinson as your top 3 rotation right now, that's a great start. That's a really great start. Zadarius Smith, I loved his energy. Not overly impressed at the last, part of the season here. Mm-mm. But I think, again, when you look at the totality of what this defense was up against, too many injuries. Too many guys having to do too much and not just focusing on what they needed to do. And I think that that's what hurt us in the end here. Just too many injuries.
I will say I was really impressed with one play with Zadarius Smith in this last game when he got his hands up and he almost could have had an interception. He knocked that ball up in the air, and that's one of those plays that could have turned the tide for us there for a little bit. But that was the only time you really saw his name getting called all day, though. That was the problem.
Yeah, Mike P., I have no idea what you're talking about. So try to be a little bit more descriptive. I have no idea what you're talking about. So anyway, where was I at? Pat O'Connor. I think that, he did enough to be able to come back to be on the training camp squad. And Teddy Bridgewater, I think he'll just be back, potentially playoff time. He's definitely not going to be with the team throughout the summer. He's going to be coaching football. Kyle Pecco, I think he did plenty and was actually playing quite well. Did not know enough about that guy, but man, we got an opportunity to watch him. Really good ball player. So I think that's my maybe list. The guys that I definitely want back. And again, I think El Quddin Muhammad, if you put him in that, I'm going to put him back in my maybe category. Mm-hmm. If you look at a rotation with Muhammad, Davenport, Smith, Hutchinson, you've got a great start to training camp. You're still going to need to add to that. We are still going to need one more guy that, we're either picking up in the draft or free agency to help kind of get us over the edge. But the linebacker group for me really has to be upgraded this season.
That defensive end position, I would want 6 players this year. I think 5 isn't enough. It's 6 or 7. Oh my God. We need to be prepared this year. We need to be prepared if 1 or 2 of our starters go down again. I think we got caught with our pants down.
So the whole Khalil Mack thing, look, I've been hearing Khalil Mack's name for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
I know who puts the name out there. It's the same repetitive bullshit that you hear every single season, 15, 20 times in the season. It's like there's no other content to do. So we just talk about Max Crosby, Khalil Mack, Bosa, and any of the other, Myles Garrett. We talk about all the top 10 defensive ends coming to Detroit. It ain't happening. Do we have any clue like what Myles or Khalil Mack's record or his contract is?
So prepare yourself, because this headline right here is coming, that Ben Johnson is taking Hendon Hooker or Jared Goff with him to the Raiders, and the Raiders are going to trade back Max Crosby to the Lions. It's that headline is coming. Just watch.
Oh, it's already been out, and then, when I highlighted Max Crosby the other day because of what he said on the NFL Live show, one, Ben Johnson going to the Raiders, great. You can't just take players with you.
No,
they have to be traded.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Ben Johnson is going to look at Hendon Hooker and say, okay, the Lions paid a 3rd round pick for you. They moved some picks around to get you. I don't think that we're going to pay a 3rd round pick, being the Raiders or whomever he goes to bring Hendon Hooker there. Like, that wouldn't be smart. And as far as Max Crosby goes, again, if you're willing to add, his contract to your cap, then but no, it's not going to happen. He wants way too much money. And to be honest with the Raiders, they're not trying to get rid of anybody right now. The only question is if they go through a full rebuild or not, Max Crosby's cap hit in 2025 is $28 million.
Yeah.
$28 million. So that is half of our current cap right now. Half. Before we add anybody else. So now we'll have about, 30 million left in cap space.
Minus rookie contracts.
Minus rookie, which is going to cost us probably about 14 million, based on where we're picking. It'll be about 14 million. And then if you look at Myles Garrett, I know that numbers popped out, or name popped out a lot this season. His contract for 2025 is 20 million. They're not trading him. They're not trading Myles Garrett to anybody. And so here's what happens. You're going to have to give up at least a first-round pick for Garrett or Crosby. At least a first-round pick. Plus more picks. They're not going to take Hendon Hooker. For what?
No.
What is he worth? He's worth maybe a fifth-round pick right now. Maybe. They're not going to take that. So don't fall into the traps. But here's what you can do. You just got to listen objectively. Right? Yeah. I mean, you're going to hear a lot of crap coming out. You're going to hear a lot of people spewing these names. It's not going to happen because it hasn't happened yet. The minute that Max Crosby or Myles Garrett makes their way onto a roster in Detroit, I will make $1,000 donation to the Lions Foundation. Stick me to it. It's not happening. That's how positive I am on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody in the chat here is saying we're paying Goff $40 million to lose to a rookie every year. No, we're not. Listen, there's been 2 rookie quarterbacks come in and win playoff games in recent history. And that is CJ Stroud and this kid, Jaden Daniels, that we played the other day.
Not talk about wait. We're paying Goff $40 million to lose to a rookie every year?
Yeah, I don't understand that statement.
What rookie did we lose to last year?
Yeah, we didn't.
Brock Purdy wasn't a rookie.
No. Brock Purdy's at the end of his contract. They don't know what they're going to do with that situation. Right. Everybody loved the 49ers playing with this kid on a 7th round contract, paying him less than $1 million a year for 4 years.
Hold on. So James just confirmed Brock Purdy he's not a rookie. Brock Purdy's been in the NFL for at least 3 seasons.
Yeah, this is 4 now. He's done with his rookie contract. He's done. This was his 4th season. And so they don't know what they're going to do with Brock Purdy. Now they're stuck because they can't re-sign Brock Purdy to the big mega deal that he's going to want. The 49ers are up against it because they had this cheap rookie quarterback that they could pay peanuts and they could pay everybody else on their team to put together this mega team. Well, now it's all going to fall apart because they can't pay everyone and pay their quarterback. So now they either have to go out and get a new rookie quarterback, which doesn't happen very often. There's been 2 the last 2 years, but look at the incoming classes. You want Deion Sanders kid? All right, go ahead. Have fun with that.
He's actually going to be a good quarterback.
He's going to be good. But I don't think he's going to be Jaden Daniels good or CJ Stroud good in year 1. I just don't think so.
Probably not. It just depends on where he goes. If there's anything we know about Sanders, he's trained the right way,
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be surprised if Deion somehow lands in the NFL soon.
Well,
Again.
They're talking about Deion going to the Cowboys, but he turned down a interview request or whatever yesterday.
Okay, so that's it with as far as free agents go. That's all that we're looking at right now, which is plenty. We've got 40 guys signed, and throughout the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be highlighting, draft prospects. We will have some people on talking about draft prospects and going through the whole draft analysis. But we still have one more major show to do, which is going to be like just a season-ending show as far as just kind of wrapping up the season. That's not really today. And we're going to bring in some other creators to kind of help us wrap up the season and just have a conversation, the points that they took from the season, points that we've taken from the season. Where do we go from here? Have some constructive criticism conversations and just kind of see where it all, melds together and moves forward. And I think that's the one thing that we get to look forward to now is we are not in, some dumpster. We're not on fire. The Lions are doing great things. I am a little bit concerned that this team wasn't prepared at all. I'm very concerned that, I know we talk about the interview process and that it's an absolute joke that you're interviewing these guys during a playoff run, but it's been going on for a long time. And if you look at the 49ers, they've lost a ton of coaches over the last many seasons. What happens to them every year?
Mm-hmm.
They get into the dance and then they don't go all the way. Is that because their coaches are getting meddled with? Are these teams intentionally calling these interviews so that they can meddle with your coaches? Getting their heads spun around and put on backwards before they have to go into the biggest game of their life? Maybe. I don't know. But I think that the NFL really needs to look at it. And I'm not just saying it because it's affecting the Lions. I've never agreed with it. But now more than ever, I just think it's silly. Like you could have waited one more week into, post the NFC Championship game. You've got a 2-week lull before the Super Bowl. There's plenty of time in between there to go do some interviews, especially if your team's out, if you're out of the Super Bowl. And then you can do the rest of your interviews after the Super Bowl, and then you can have somebody hired before the new league year, starts, which should honestly give you plenty of time. Anything else today? Let's see. What else did I have written down? This is a big one for me. We battled adversity all season. A lot of people counted this team out after week 6. Aiden Hutchinson goes down, and everybody's just like, come on, what are we doing here? We need to bring in some edge rushers. We need to do this. We need to do that. And if you would have listened to those individuals that say all of that stuff, that's fine. That's their opinion, just like it's your opinion. But did we need to do anything differently at that point? I don't think so. And the record speaks for that. The way this defense played this season speaks for that. The adversity that we faced, it fell upon too many injuries, but we still played above it. The guys behind them still rose up. It was next man up. But at some point, and I said this, and I wish I didn't. At some point, there is no next man up. And this Saturday is kind of where we finally hit that wall. There was no next man up that was going to get us through that game. When Amik went out with another broken bone, he's done for the season. You kind of just feel in the stadium just deflated energy. So where do we go from here? How do we move forward? Well, we just start a new season. It's that simple. We're not going backwards. We're going forward. What the Lions did this last season should have shown each and every one of you that Dan Campbell does have a very good pulse on this team, that Brad Holmes does have a very good pulse on this team, that they have organized an amazing roster this season. When they said that they were going to need all 69, they weren't lying, because they clearly needed all of them plus more. You can't lose 21 guys or 22 or 23 or 24 and expect to go deep into the postseason. This last Saturday was a culmination of many things, but I think it was the injuries. But even with that, I feel like Ben and AG were not prepared at all. I feel like any other defensive coordinator would have looked at this defense and said, man, I can't have you guys blitzing with this limited amount of assets that I have up against one of the best teams against the blitz. I can't do that to my guys. I got to put my guys in a winning position. And when you look at what the Bills did against the Ravens, that's the mentality. McDermott put his guys in a position to win, but they were also a lot more healthy than what the Lions were. If you don't have the right resources in a game, you're going to get bad results, especially if you put them in a bad position, and blitzing was not the answer. So in your opinion, Eric, after watching an implosion happen on Saturday, do you think that Ben or AG coached themselves out of a coaching position?
Both of them might have.
So does that mean you think they're coming back?
I don't think either one is coming back. I think that unfortunately Aaron Glenn, I think, has really wanted this head coaching job from the very beginning. That's what his mindset and his goal has been. And I think he's going to the Jets. And unfortunately, I think that Ben Johnson is going to go to the Raiders. And I don't know. I almost think it's a possibility that Dan takes over the play calling and does both head coach and play calling for the offense and has a helper like he did with Ben Johnson in the beginning. That might be what happens.
Well, this was his offense.
Yeah.
But
that might be the way it goes from here on out. Just like Andy Reid calls his own plays, I think that Dan Campbell might be confident enough to say, you know what? I'm going to do it from now on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Dan Campbell is live right now.
Yep.
Well, let me see if I can bring him in real quick. I'll bring him in just 1 second. So before I do that, one other quick segment here. How much do you feel like the refs impacted this game? Because for me, it was a situation that, man, these guys, they blew so many calls. And I hate to put anything on the refs, but the multiple helmet-to-helmet collisions that weren't called, too often times that, they were relying on New York to accurately spot the football. Like they couldn't get the call right at the first time. It's almost like they were intentionally cheating us, on field position or cheating for the Commanders on field position. And then New York has to correct it. Why couldn't they correct, the helmet to helmet contact with New York? Because, none of that stuff is not really reviewable when they have to review a play. They could have reviewed it. So I just don't understand. There's a lot of penalties in this game. Some phantom face masks, face masks that weren't called against, Jahmyr Gibbs. Kirby Joseph's very, very, very ticky-tacky PI on a 4th down stop.
Yeah.
Come on.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something. I will never blame the refs for a loss. I'm not blaming the refs for a loss at all on this game. You have to be better than any one call that a ref can make. And we weren't better. We just weren't on this day. We lost because we lost. Has nothing to do with the refs, but I'm going to say this. 4 or 5 times during this game, that clock hit 0, and I counted to 1 or 2, and Jaden Daniels didn't have the ball yet.
Yep. So that's why you got to put some blame on the refs. I know that you don't want to blame the refs because you want to be bigger than the refs. And yes, you have to be able to take the refs out of the game, but sometimes you can't take the refs out of the game when they're allowing Jaden Daniels to, have delay a game multiple times. And in some of those helmet-to-helmet, penalties, had they been called, well, some of those guys should have been ejected. Well, that totally transforms your defense when you lose 3 or 4 guys to ejections because of intentional helmet-to-helmet contact. But those 15-yard personal foul penalties, they really start to add up, and they start to give you better field position. They maybe give you some first downs that you weren't going to get. So it totally transforms the game.
Yeah, and the most important one that I think where the clock hit 0. So the play never took place if the clock gets to 0 and the play is stopped. On a 4th down play, we had 12 men on the field.
Yep.
That clock hit 0 before that play occurred. That should have been a delay of game. And I was screaming delay of game. And I thought that's what the flag was for.
Yeah. Nope.
No, they threw it for 12 men on the field. And everybody is ridiculing, Dan Campbell. Why didn't you take a timeout and blah, blah, blah? No, because he was looking at the stadium clock going to 0. So what does it matter if you could have 15 guys on the field? It doesn't matter because the play shouldn't count because it went to 0. before the play occurred. The play has to start for you to have 12 men on the field. Because if your guy's running off, trying to get off the field, if he doesn't hike that ball in time, then there's no 12 men on the field. That's what Aaron Rodgers used to do all the time. Catch you with 12 guys on the field trying to sub somebody out. Well, we also had 2 players on that exact same play that had not played, in the previous game at all. They were 2 guys brought up from the practice squad. So I don't know. That was the one that really bummed me out with the refs, was them not calling delay a game penalty on Jaden Daniels, and he should have had 4 or 5 in this game.
Well, that's why I think that there has to be a little bit of blame, on these guys, on these refs, because that totally transforms a game. It does. You don't get the penalty, they don't get a first down. They get backed up 5 yards for delay a game. That changes what defense you can run.
Yeah.
There's so many, and the same thing with interceptions and fumbles, and it changes the game. So maybe that helmet to helmet's called, and now you're 15 yards further down the field, and maybe now you're not passing the football, and then it doesn't turn into an interception. You see what I'm saying? Every action has a reaction. We know that. And sometimes when the game is called, all times when the game is called correctly, well, then you can't bitch about anything. If the game is perfectly called, which is hardly ever, you can't bitch about anything. But in this instance, there is 4, 5, 6, 7 different things that have happened that the refs didn't call that totally change this outcome potential. Mm-hmm. And that's where I have an issue with the refs. But my position about the refs is to keep the refs out of the game, you have to put points on the board, right? And to make sure they stay out of the game, you have to keep points off the board. Well, we didn't do either in this game. We put up some points. We didn't put up enough. But they certainly allowed Jaden Daniels to have a very long leash when it comes to delay a game and the defense for all the helmet-to-helmet contact, which I'll be doing that video later on today and putting it out because, again, it was almost as identical hit that Sam Laporta took against the 49ers.
Hey, before this game, if I told you our offense was going to put up 31 points, you'd have been very confident that the Lions won this game.
Well, I think both of us took over 31 points. I think I
had 33.
What was my call? Was my call 31, 32? I don't remember now.
Yeah.
No, I think it was 34. I think I called 34-23 or something like that. I don't know. It's on Twitter. All right, let me bring in Dan Campbell here. And then I'm going to end the day from there. After that, we'll talk about a little bit about what he said, and then got stuff to do. God, I hate having to move on. Never expected to be in this situation today. Really didn't. Expected to be going to a game next week.
Yeah. Listen, my buddy Bob just texted me. Says, I'd rather watch an episode of The View than replay that game. I'm still absolutely fuming.
Yeah, I've already watched it a couple different ways.
I haven't yet. I'm going to. Just like I rewatched the NFC Championship game probably 50 friggin' times afterward. But it's going to take a little bit. But I'm going to say this. This one doesn't sting as bad as the NFC Championship game. That one was way worse on me. That one, I had my Ticketmaster open and everything ready to go. All I had to do was hit accept to buy my Super Bowl ticket to watch my Detroit Lions play in the Super Bowl. I've never been that close to buying a Super Bowl ticket in my life. And I just couldn't pull the trigger because the clock didn't say 0 yet. I wasn't going to pull the trigger until I absolutely knew we had that game. Right. And that one hurt me.
All right, let me see if I can bring this in here. All right, Dan Campbell on the podium. Let's hear what he has to say. I should probably make sure I've got audio in this too.
And tough pill to swallow. You know, when you have goals. It was tough. I was tough the other day, and tough pill to swallow. You know, when you have goals, and you have standards for yourself, and I mean that for us as a team collectively, and you fail to reach those, man, it hurts. And but ultimately, man, we failed. We failed in that game. You know, we had a hell of a season, and we overcame a lot of adversity. Guys, ton of guys, man, that we needed to rely on and did, and got us in that position. We got to where we wanted to get to, and then we did not perform. And man, credit Washington. They did what they needed to do, and they played a good game. But when a little bit for us, when you feel like, hey, you got to bring your A game. I think if we bring our B game, we got a chance to win that game, and we didn't bring that. So, that's just a little bit of that's the frustration. I know everybody's frustrated. I know the fans are, certainly our team, coaches, everybody in the organization. So, that being said, I'm real proud of these guys. I am. I'm proud of them because I know the fight they've got in them, and I know what they're made of, and the amount of things that they did overcome speaks volumes. So, as I said in the loss, everybody's got a hand in that. Everybody's got a hand, including me. And so, we definitely did that together. We earned that loss together. But listen, all we can do is move forward. Man, you brush yourself off. I've already gone through the loss of a family member feeling to anger yesterday to now I'm back on my feet ready to roll. And I've acknowledged, I can look in the mirror and say, you know what, you failed, man. What are you going to do about it? So that's where we're at. And move forward, man. Questions?
Look at the way this roster was constructed. We're putting a lot of the foundational pieces together to be here for the same amount of years. Do you feel like the Super Bowl window is still open for you guys going forward?
Yeah, I do, man. I think that's, we talk about that core group is still intact, and some of these guys are now, we've signed some back, some are up on contracts, and that'll be ongoing. But yeah, we absolutely do, and I think the most important thing is you want to know you got your culture, you got your identity, and you got players and that fit into that, and we've got that. Like we got players in every pivotal position you can ask for to have success. And those guys are made the right way. So absolutely our window is open.
How much does that change if you lose one or both of your coordinators?
It can't, right? It can't. Can't allow that to happen. That's my job, is to replenish and find the next man up and the guy who's going to give us the best chance to have success on both sides of the ball. So we're not going to allow that to happen. I'm not. Does it hurt to lose those guys? Absolutely. They're a part of what we've been here. I mean, they've been here for 4 years. They're one of the major reasons why we've been able to get to where we've been, man. We came out of the dump and got to where we're at. So, man, I will forever be grateful for those guys, and our team will. And is it a loss? Absolutely it'd be a loss. But yet, man, we move forward. This train rolls on, and I'll find the next best guys for us.
What did you learn as far as, you want it to be seamless, that transition, if it happens, but, the Anthony Lynn thing didn't work. What did you learn from that situation of making a change and finding the right guy? I mean, you have a lot more experience now, obviously.
Yeah, I think, let me start here from that. What do you learn? Okay, man, I just make sure that I am heavily.
All right, I'm going to pause it there for just a second so I can abide by copyright law here, make sure that we are doing commentary, critiquing and ensuring that we're doing this out of an educational standing here. So Dan Campbell says that we're still in a position to win a Super Bowl. And if you don't think that we are, we are. To the point that he made about the foundational pieces, the pillars of this team, they're intact. We have 40 guys that are signed currently. And if you are not more confident now than ever that, we've had a taste, right? We've been to the playoffs now 2 seasons in a row, back-to-back champs of the NFC North. We're going to have to three-peat next year and do it all over again. This is another learning opportunity for Dan Campbell and the rest of this team, from the executives all the way down to the concession stands. How do we get better? And I feel that Dan Campbell is ready to answer the bell there. He's going to answer it. He's, like you said, he stood in front of the mirror and he said that he failed. And how does he not do that next year? This season is a different type of failure. You have the best offense in the league. You've got a top 7 defense. You had all of the makings of a Super Bowl winning team. The injuries were a big part of that, but Dan Campbell still doesn't feel that they should have lost that game. It sucks, but we have to keep moving forward.
Involved. And however we go, man, I am very offensive heavy, I think is the best way to say that. So certainly picking, I am picking that, but I need to have my checklist done. But then on top of that, I need to be part of the whole process. Part of the whole process. There was a number of things when that transition took place,
Hold on here. I missed the question here. Hold on.
Look, I think...
But, the Anthony Lynn thing didn't work. What did you learn?
Loss? Absolutely it'd be a loss. But yet, man, we move forward. This train rolls on, and I'll find the next best guys for us.
What did you learn as far as, you want it to be seamless, that transition, if it happens. But, the Anthony Lynn thing didn't work. What did you learn from that situation of making a change and finding the right guy? I mean, you have a lot more experience now, obviously.
Yeah, I think, let me start here from that. What do you learn? Okay. Man, I just need make sure that I am heavily involved. And however we go, man, I am very offensive heavy, I think is the best way to say that. So certainly picking, I am picking that, but I need to have my checklist done. But then on top of that, I need to be part of the whole process. Part of the whole process. There was a number of things when that transition took place, your offense, you call it, I'll have some things I want. And then I'm with Brad because we're getting ready for the draft. I'm looking for players, free agency, blah, 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 blah. And so you kind of allow all those things to happen, and it's a blind spot. And it shouldn't be, because that's my area of expertise, if you will. So I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm going to be involved no matter what, because I think that's best for our offense. But also, golf. This thing is set up for golf to have success with our playmakers, St. Brown, our running backs, the O-line, the whole deal, J-Mo. And so I want to keep that in place. I want to keep our terminology in place, and I want to make sure that golf is comfortable because he's playing at a high level.
Okay, Eric, you're still with us, right?
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so what did you just take from this? He was talking about being in the process here. Let me switch back to our screen for just a second. So Dan is talking about being involved in the hiring process of the next coordinators, and I don't know if I'm reading the room wrong here. Is he stating that maybe he wasn't as part of the process when Ben Johnson was moved into the coordinator role? Or do you think he's just kind of saying, like, I need to be in the process because this is, like he said, my area of expertise, and I have to be more involved. Like, I have to make sure this is the absolute right guy. Are we sensing a disconnect here between Brad? Am I reading this wrong?
Yeah, I think it's more of the latter. I think it's more of him just saying, this is my bag. I got this. Don't worry about this. I think we'll be fine with the whole coordinator issue.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, so they asked the question about Anthony Lynn and what he learned about the whole Anthony Lynn experience. Dan Campbell was calling plays then. Yeah. And the offense was fine. So he handed it off to Ben Johnson And I think a lot of people fail to remember that Dan is really an offensive genius. And hell, Goff just put that out there not too long ago and said, you guys are misunderstanding Dan, basically. Like, this guy knows his stuff. And very cool, calm, collected individual in my headset. Did not expect that from Dan. But the offense was cooking. And then he handed it off to Ben, and the offense still cooked. But my only question here is, man, during this game, did you not hear these crazy calls? Or did you not think that they were crazy? Passing on 3rd and 1? That's where I'm hoping that he's saying that he needs to be a little bit more involved in the process as far as calling the plays on game day. But take it away. What did you think?
Yeah, that might be right what it is. You know, he's reeling right now, just like all of us are. You know, he's still processing this. How many times is he going to watch this game? He's probably going to watch it 1 million times, where we might watch it 2 or 3 times. You know, I feel bad for the guy, but hey, it's a learning process. We learned from the NFC Championship game. We're going to have to learn from this one too, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, into the chat here, Warren King says Campbell stated that he thinks both Glenn and Johnson are gone. I don't think that I've gotten to that point. And if he said that, maybe we'll get to that here in just a few moments. Looks like we got about 6 or 7 minutes of tape to roll through still. But it does, from what he's been saying right now, it kind of gives that idea that they're both gone. I've expected them to be gone. I've expected Ben to go to the Raiders, and I've expected, you know, Aaron Glenn to either go to the Jets or the Saints. And honestly, both teams kind of suck to a degree for Glenn, but I don't really care, you know.
Can I say something about the chat real quick?
Sure.
People are tearing on Goff, saying he's just like Darnold and blah, blah, blah. Goff sucks. Goff needs to go. Listen, Goff won us 15 effing games this year. I lived through 0-16. I lived through 2-14. All these horrible, crappy seasons where we were in 4th place every friggin' year. I will take Goff in a heartbeat every time, 100 out of 100 times since he's gotten here. We went 3-13-1. We went 9-8. Then we went 12-5, and now we're 15-2. I'll take it every single year. He's shown growth every single year. We have won more games. I will take 15-2 every single year, and I don't think we're going to do 15-2 next year. We might be 12-5 again next year, somewhere in that region. We have a much harder schedule next year. We're playing that first place schedule again next year, and we're playing some tougher teams. We're not playing the AFC South.
So let me give you some stat lines for Goff here. He was inserted into the Rams offense with the last 7 games of the season, a team that was decimated, a team that had nobody, right? Fisher was gone after that year, and he went 0-7 as a rookie, and that was not a good option to put him in. But they wanted to get him some snaps, to get him some NFL experience, and that's all that was for. You can throw that entire first season for Goff out the window because it was exactly what he went through coming to Detroit. In that first season, and I've gone through this a few times, over 80% of their roster from 2020 to 2021 was gone. And so you're starting with a new roster, and then he had like no weapons. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the only guy that ended up being a weapon for him to use at some point. We had nothing. And he goes 3-13-1. He missed 3 games that year due to some injury. And then he went 9-8. And then he went 12-5, like he said, like Eric said, and then 15-2. Jared Goff has had winning seasons every single season he's been an NFL quarterback, besides his first year as a rookie, playing the last 7 games. Can't blame him for that at all. And then his first season in Detroit. Other than that, he's won 9 games or more every single season. He has more playoff wins and Super Bowl appearances than anybody in the NFL not named Patrick Mahomes. And he now does more than Joe Burrow. That was the only guy that had more wins or appearances than Jared Goff. So you're damn right. I'm going to take Jared Goff every day. And to Dan's point, this offense, these players, this is set up for Jared Goff. Some people take that as a knock. Like he can't succeed in other systems. He absolutely can. But as a coach, as a GM of a team, when you build a team, do you think that you're building it for any other quarterback to have success? Or are you building it for the quarterback that you have on your roster? Let's be realistic, people. This team is built for the team. It is not built for anybody else. Nobody else should have success in this system other than the guys you have on the roster. Doesn't mean that you can't have guys have success. They come from the outside in. On the offense, I'm speaking specifically for. But they have to fit. They have to fit your mold. Do you have anything, or you want me to go on?
No, that's about it. I don't get the Goff hate, so I'm just not gonna stand by and let everybody put it all on Goff. This game is not on Goff. Now, you asked me to put together my 5 things, that went wrong with this game, and one of my things was I put that Goff was off. He was. In that second half, he was off. I don't know if it was concussion. I don't know what it was.
Well, it could have been.
He seemed a little off. And I almost wonder if he should have came back in the game due to that helmet to helmet.
Yeah.
I think sometimes they are a little too quick to let people just pass this quick little test and come back into a game. I almost wish they wouldn't sometimes. I think it's more of a player safety thing than anything, not a performance thing. But he was off, and I'll admit, Goff was off.
Okay, so real quick here in the chat.
Yeah,
I'm not picking on you, raw B1s, but the sacked fumble was on Glasgow. That was not on Taylor Decker, and it was under 2.5 seconds that Goff was sacked on his blind side. Can't blame Goff for that. I've talked about all this stuff today already. As far as throwing 3 picks in the game, again, I think you need to question the play calling. I think you need to question, some of the penalties that were not called, and that totally changes the dynamic. But we have to live within the constructs of what's going on in the game, right? Goff made some mistakes. He absolutely did. But this defense didn't show up, and it didn't show up because it wasn't that they didn't show up to play. AG put him in a bad situation. He absolutely did what you're not supposed to do against an RPO. If you have a defense that is healthy and stacked, if we had our starting defense from game 1, yes, then that defense could work because you have enough athletes that can play in space, that know where to be and when to be there. But when you are on to your, 3rd and 4th string guys, these guys don't have the experience.
Yeah.
And AG should have known that. But you know what? AG didn't give a shit because he's already halfway out the door.
Yeah. And
that's
here's
how I
one
feel
more
about
thing. Lamar Jackson is probably about 90%. He's going to win his 3rd MVP in a row. And the Ravens are in the exact same spot as the Lions, losing on divisional weekend. So don't just blame it all on your quarterback.
Yeah, it's a team game for a reason, and you're going to hear every player say that. You cannot blame Goff for all of this. And if you are, there's 31 other teams you can go root for, unfortunately. This is a team game. We're going to bounce back. We're living the best seasons we've ever had. And I said this the other day. Are we being too cocky as Lions fans? I think I'm more realistic than cocky. I expected to be into the Super Bowl this year. I expected to be there because of the way that we were playing. But deep down, I knew it was just 1 or 2 more injuries away that this defense was not going to be able to hold up. And to all of the other hotheads and hot air being blown out there about pass rush or anything else, look, there's nobody available. You can't refill a roster after week 10. And you can't fill a roster prior to week 10 with a bunch of starters as your 3rd and 4th string. It doesn't work that way. So there's nothing else that this team could have done. There's nothing else any other team could have done. It is what it is. The cookie crumbled, and we were left with crumbs.
Yeah. I'm not going to put this loss on Goff at all. The offense scored 31 points. That should be enough. We talk about the defense only giving up 20 points all the time. Well, the defense only should have gave up 20 points.
Yeah. All right, let's keep listening to old Dan here.
I would expect to lose both, but I haven't been told anything. I've got a feeling, but I'm prepared to lose both.
Okay.
As you look back on that game against Saturday, you said if you bring your B game, you have a chance. Just in hindsight, why do you think you didn't even bring that B game? Was it a moment get too big, or they start pressing when things went wrong?
Yeah, I think it was just that combination. We just, it's there was one thing that happened in there that I think 2 weeks ago, Washington plays Tampa Bay, and Tampa is beginning to try to take control of that game. They're up 4 points, and they fumbled, and backed up territory, and then Washington gets it, and that really was, you having the ability to go up 2 scores, and all of a sudden, whoa, you're down, and that kind of happened to us on the first turnover. We have the chance to go up 14-3 potentially, and we fumble that ball. They go all the way down. It just it begins to change the narrative of where you're going, and then they get some long drives. That one in the third quarter, 8.5 minutes, 15 plays, and now all of a sudden you look up and you're down 2 scores. And I think there's just enough element of, okay, we need to be able to score here, and whatever that does, things that have not crept up or that have had an effect on us did show up. And I do bring this up. I understand, Goff, the 4 interceptions, but there was a number of things.
It's 3, Dan.
That took place in 2 of those that are. There's more than him, and I mentioned, what had happened on the first one, but even the second one, man, I've got to hit my back foot. Ball needs to be, I can't let it rip. I got to move up in the pocket. So it's just, man, it's a combination of a lot of things. And we were just a little bit off, and normally we can overcome being just a little bit off, and we just weren't quite there. Now, listen, man, the guys played hard. It wasn't the attitude. It wasn't the effort. It was just the little things. I mean, shoot, man, 5 turnovers. It's like, wow. If we only turn it over 3, we may have a chance. I mean, that's crazy. We're talking about 3. So, and I don't want to take anything away from Washington. I don't, man. They earned that win. They earned it. And, but yet, man, we shot ourselves in the foot. And we haven't done it. We did it that game. We just did.
All right, so real quick to comment on that. I mean, so Dan Campbell has just come out and said that, there's some things that happened in this game, especially speaking to the interceptions, that there was more. There was more that happened than just Jared Goff. And I think that if you really go and watch the tape and watch how the plays break down, watch it 4, 5, 6 times, I've already cut them all up and stitched them all together and slowed everything down and want to talk about it, and I will in a video today, and I'm going to try to break it down. My view may not be well-liked. It may not be, something that people agree with, but let's look at it, because there is always a lot more going on than what meets the eye. A lot of people just see the ball in the air and a defender catching it. They didn't look at what happened with the offensive line, right? They didn't look what happened with, the backer that is supposed to pick up a blitz. They didn't look at the tight end that maybe missed a chip block. All they see is Jared Goff throwing a pick. There's more that goes on in this game than just that play alone. And so Dan Campbell obviously is not going to call anybody out, but he's going to tell us that there's more that meets the eye.
How do you feel about Jameer Gibbs' usage in that game?
Well, yeah, I mean, you always want to give him more carries. You come out of a game like that, and he's had the carries he has. But we were pretty balanced. We were pretty balanced when you take away now we're in gotta-go mode. We're in 2-minute mode. Those are 20 of the reps or something, and so you take that out, you're left with 40 reps, and you're balanced. So it was really, we were having success really no matter what we did. We felt like we could run it, we could throw it, explosives, and then we turned the ball over. So the turnovers created the issue. All of a sudden, you're down a couple of scores, and now you're out of what you really feel like you can do. So, it's you really want to dissect it into more than what it is. Here's what it is: we turn the ball over, and then we get behind, and then we turn the ball over, and we get behind, and so it just we couldn't overcome it,
Flip side of that, I know it's easy in hindsight to look back when a play doesn't work, but many people are wondering it's 3rd down and 1. You have
I can't wait to hear what's going to come up next. They're talking about the 3rd down and 1. I haven't listened to this, obviously, because I'm listening to it with you guys for the first time. Talking about the 3rd and 1. Hopefully, he's going to ask a question about passing the ball there. We'll see. Turning the ball over, obviously, it's a killer, right? It's going to kill the game, no matter what. But when you go back and dissect everything, there's a lot more that happened in this game. A lot more. Defensively, you can't let a team put up 45 points, right? And offensively, if they get 3 scores out of that, take those points off the board, and now it's what? It's a 23, 20, they've got 23 points on the day versus 45 or whatever the case may be. If you take 3 scores off the game, maybe it changes the game. At the end of the day, I think that this defense allowed way too much to happen. And Jay-Z in the chat made a comment in here, says, I still say losing edge contain on Jaden's scrambles was a killer on the defense. And it was. You can't let the guy get outside the pocket. You can't let him get first downs and allow these drives to go to what Dan said, a 15-play drive in the 3rd quarter, taking 8 minutes off the clock. If you contain Jaden, the majority of these plays don't happen. It's that simple. Even if you turn the ball over, like Dan said, if we had 3 turnovers, he still felt that we had a chance. And to him, that seems crazy because normally it doesn't happen when you have that many turnovers. Turnovers has always been a killer in the game. Like I said, on Twitter, it's all these pressures that were on Jared Goff. Well, that leads to turnovers. If you're getting heavily pressured, he's going to make mistakes. Everybody does. Every quarterback makes mistakes. That's the essence of getting pressure on a pocket passer, to force them into making a mistake. And it was way too often that he was pressured way too quickly and from his blind side. But Jared made some mistakes in this game. The turnovers definitely didn't help, but I still believe and will always stand by defensively. You had an opportunity to do something different in this game that you didn't do, and you put a defense that was down to its shoelaces for players, and you put them in a bad position. That can't happen. So hopefully we get a defensive coordinator that understands that next time.
An offensive line, you have 2 good running backs. Why empty backfield set, and why not run the football in that play?
Yeah, we were ready to go for it on 4th, so we'd run it on 4th if it didn't take place. We liked the matchup with Saint on Wagner, and it's a play we've run, I don't know, 50 times this year, something, and it just didn't work out, and it was the perfect storm. It was, just a little bit of a slip. Goff has to choke the ball, then he moves up, we get beat. And protection on a 3 steps, not a 7-step, it's 3 steps. So it happened fast, and then bam, disaster, So I'm with.
Okay, so what he's saying here is, and this is what I mentioned yesterday, I believe, that Saint slipped on this play. And when he slipped and Goff had to readjust, and then the ball comes out a little bit, jerky, or maybe just a little bit to the right or whatever it was, I can't remember the play in my head right now, causes an interception. Perfect storm, like Dan Campbell just said.
I don't worry about it. I'm not second guessing that. And if we were going to do it all over again, I'd do the same thing. So, and I know that's a hard pill to swallow, but it just didn't work out for us.
You guys were so good at forcing turnovers in the beginning of the season. Just 2 interceptions down the stretch, no takeaways Saturday night. What do you think kind of contributed to the limited production?
Yeah, it's a good question. But I'm with you. We hit a drought. We hit a drought again, and even particularly in this game, we knew we were going to need some takeaways, and we just couldn't get them. I thought we may get one on the long one. The Brown, Kirby was coming over the top, and I thought we were about to get that one, and then it comes away, and he gets an explosive catch out of it. We couldn't, man. We punched at some balls. We couldn't get them out. The interceptions really, other than that one I just talked about, we could never apply enough pressure to force him to get rid of the ball in a situation that was going to benefit us. But I know this, we must improve, and we did. It came in highs and lows, man. We had an uptick. We started low, we had an uptick, then it went down in the season, then it came back up, and then we lost it again. So we got to be much more consistent. Look, that team's been good with takeaways, and they did it again in a big way.
What do you have to get, what position group or whatever needs to improve the most, you think, going into next year?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I don't know if I could I should not answer that yet until I really do self-scout and I really look at it, you know, game for game, player for player, matchup for matchup, and Brad and I sit down and talk about, man, where do we really need the most help? You know, I know this, when you come away, it's, in hindsight, looking at this after what just happened, you're like, man, can we have enough defensive depth? Is that possible?
God.
I mean, because we were loaded. You know, you don't think about losing ones and twos in every group down there. So, but you only have 53 spots, you know. And I just go back, well, we're going to look at everything, but this is one of those bizarre, freakish years. It just, you know, you do the same thing you did a year ago and you're pretty healthy, you know, and then this year it was one of those years. So, but Brad and I, we're going to get into that over the next 2 weeks. We'll really deep dive our roster. Where do we feel like we can get better? Because ultimately that's what we want to do. We want to bring in more competition. And that competition has got to be right. It's got to match the guys that are in that room. I already told them, I owe them that. I'm not going to bring in somebody that doesn't belong here or doesn't endear themselves to their teammates or doesn't believe in what we believe in. But they got to be able to help us and bring competition. We'll do that wherever that's at.
So another good point by Dan Campbell. Speaking about depth, right? You never know, or no one could have known that you were going to lose not just ones, but twos at just about every position on the defense. And that's why I keep saying, and I'm going to keep pounding my chest on this, you can't blame Brad Holmes for doing anything wrong in this situation. They gave us the team that we needed. We absolutely had the team that we needed to go all the way this season. Injuries hurt that. You couldn't go any deeper. You couldn't have any more people on this team to take you to the next level. They did have it. But when you're down to third and fourth stringers, sometimes the clock just runs out and it's down to triple zeros and you've got nothing else that you can do. You can't do anything after week 10 or the bye week, whatever week that is. You're up against it. You can't go spend $100 million in early in free agency on 3-4 guys and expect that they're going to make it through the season. What if they got injured? What if you would have brought in Max Crosby and he got injured 6 weeks before the end of the season? What if you do bring in Myles Garrett and he gets injured in week 17 before the postseason? What if you do bring in Khalil Mack and he gets injured in week 10 and he can't play the rest of the season? Well, then it's all for nothing, right? You're in the same situation. So they were built to the hilt and it just collapsed. And there's nothing that they can do about the injuries.
Obviously, some things will change, some naturally. Do you think there's anything fundamentally that needs to change, or are you one game can change what you stand for, what the team, what that philosophy is?
No, I don't see philosophy changing. I think what we are is what we are, and we've been that way since I've been here. So does that mean a couple of things get tweaked? A couple of things will get tweaked, just the nature of having new coordinators, if that happens. Because you want it to be kind of their flavor, their style with it. But yet, what I want is what we're going to do, and what we're about, and what golf's about, and the runners, and what we are on defense, and the nature of the way we play. I want to play man, you want to play man.
Love it.
I'm going to pressure a little bit. I mean, so these things are not going to go away. We are what we are. But ultimately, it's always going to be about how do we put the players we have in the best position to have success, which in turn gives us, the ability to have success. So, and no matter what that is, and sometimes that changes. Could be with free agency, could be with the draft. Maybe you're more in these packages than the others because that's your best players. But no, what we are is what we are.
What we are is Detroit football. That's not going to change. I'm glad that he wants to stick with man. I'm glad that he wants to stick with the schemes. To his point, to his credit, that, they are what they are. And they've identified who they want to be. And he wants to stick with it. So I love it. Last night, I said that one of my worst fears really was that when you get new coordinators, sometimes the philosophy changes so much that the players that you have currently don't fit. Well, Dan just nixed that. He wants to keep the same philosophies with a couple of tweaks. And that's kind of what I said yesterday, too, that you're going to have a few things that change. You're going to have a few different schemes that are installed or a few different fronts, right? You're going to disguise a little bit differently. And I love it because that's really what we needed at times this season was a few things that were different than what we were bringing to the table. Dan's not going to throw anybody under the bus. He's not going to outwardly say that we did too much on defense, or at least I haven't heard him say it yet. I know that we got a few minutes here, but I'm glad that we're sticking with the same type of schemes here.
Your potential coordinator search here, imagine it's something you've had to think about quite a bit, given the interest in Ben and AG. How do you balance internal versus external candidates? I mean, even
Great question.
The way you've built the roster, you seem to go with the guys you trust. How do you look at looking outside the organization to find those guys?
Yeah, I think there is a balance. Look, the easy thing to say is you want the best candidate. Okay, that's one way to say it, but that's also like saying, give me the best player. All right, give me the right player, give me the right coach, give me the right coordinator. That's really what I'm looking for, more than if you're going to start slapping a best on them. I'll just give an example. A guy like Terrell Williams,
Yeah,
I'm
dog.
fortunate that I believe he's the best, but he's also the right guy.
Yeah,
they have
buddy.
to go hand in hand. But I think we've got guys on staff that I think are more than qualified and would be outstanding in those roles. But that does not mean that I'm not looking outside either. So I want what I believe is going to be as close to what we have been as possible. And we don't lose what we're about and our identity. And Wojo, like what you just asked, we're going to stay true to who we are. And if you're somebody that doesn't feel comfortable with that, then no, I don't. This isn't the job for you. So I'm not going to be in a hurry. I'm not in a mad dash. No matter what happens, I want to do what's right by our team. And what I believe is going to, those guys will be able to stand in front of that room and command respect and get everybody going in the same direction. And we'll ultimately deliver the same message that I'm delivering.
Okay, I'm going to go to the dual screen here, Eric. Okay, so I've been talking about Terrell Williams for a while now, about becoming our next defensive coordinator.
Yep.
After you hearing what Dan just said, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, it's a lock.
I think it's a great choice. If it sounds like that's what he's thinking, but I don't know if.
Yeah, he mentions him by name. He didn't mention anybody for the offensive coordinator position, but listen, he's not going to break up the band. He's not going to total break it down to the studs. Let's try over again. That's not what this is. And like I said earlier, talking about the Ravens, with Lamar Jackson, every year this seems to happen to them. They're, the number 1 seed, or they're the number 2 seed, and they get to the divisional round, or they get to the AFC championship game and they lose, they don't break it down to the studs when they lose their coordinators. They've lost their offensive coordinator before. They've lost their defensive coordinator before. And listen, they're still in it every year. They're still a playoff team basically every single season. And that's all we can ask for. Dude, this was the best overall season the Lions have ever had. 15-2. We joined 9 or 8 other teams. We are the 9th team to ever be 15-2. We had the number 4 offense in NFL history. We had a point differential of 222 points, multiple Pro Bowlers, multiple All-Pros. We swept the division for the first time ever. We got the number 1 seed for the first time ever. We won back-to-back NFC North championships for the first time ever. We did that right there for the first time ever. So losing our coordinators, it's going to be tough. But I think Dan has a plan, and I think he's had a plan all year long. I think he had a plan last year when Ben Johnson almost left. and the year before. I think he's had a plan all along to make these guys head coaches, have a coaching tree, and be able to bring the next guy up. It's next man up on defense. Well, it's also next man up for the coordinators. And I think he is very well prepared for this. Otherwise, why would he get up in his press conferences and say, AG deserves to be a head coach? Ben Johnson deserves to be a head coach. You don't hear Andy Reid getting up to the podium talking about how his coordinators deserve to be head coaches. You just don't see it. At least I don't see it from any other head coaches. They're not up there pounding the podium for their coordinators to be head coaches. I don't see it.
So, there's a couple of things I wanted to highlight in the chat here. One second. Talking about Terrell Williams. And the one thing, Eric, that I've been very keen on with Terrell Williams is I said that I don't think that AG has the success that he has this season without Terrell Williams. I don't think that all of those injuries that we faced are able to be overcome without Terrell Williams. I think that his wealth of knowledge and schematical genius helped us get above and beyond throughout the majority of the season. Wasn't enough on Saturday night. And I'm not taking anything away from AG. I still think that AG is a great defensive coordinator. I think that he just made a bad decision on trying to be too aggressive on Saturday night. And I think had he thought about it, which I'm sure he has by now, maybe he would have done something a little bit differently. Maybe after watching the Bills, contain Lamar Jackson the way that they did with their edge rushers and playing contain and setting the edge and not getting too deep and not letting Lamar get outside, maybe he would have done something different with Jaden. I've seen it in the chat today that, a big reason why, Jaden had the success he did is because we lost contain. Our guys crashed in. They fell for the play action. They fell for the RPO. We even got a penalty for roughing the passer. I think it was on Josh Paschal that took out Jaden Daniels because he didn't realize he already handed the ball off. I wouldn't have called that penalty because, at that point, it looked like he was blocking. But anyway, as far as Terrell Williams, I think it is a perfect fit, and that does keep our scheme the majority the same, and I think it elevates big time. Brandy Coffee, I'm going to do raffles tomorrow. We're going to do it all tomorrow. So I'll do it probably around the 9 a.m. hour. As far as Dan Campbell, I'm going to listen to this next question, and then I'm going to end it for the day.
Yeah, by the way, this is our longest podcast ever. This is eclipsing the 3-hour mark.
Hey, I'll go for all day if I need to. I'll go 24 hours when we do some Cancer Foundation stuff. I'll go all damn day. All right, here we go.
A guy that fit with Goff. I mean, that was really important. That's obviously understandable. How much do you incorporate his voice into finding the right guy if you have to replace Ben?
Yeah, a lot. I want his input, and to me, that's important. That's important. That's what Ben did a great job of is working, those guys working together, and the system was kind of built from the ground up, and it was to help him and for him to be a part of, and so that's huge. He'll have a lot of input. What he says is going to says a lot to me, I should say. Now, is it going to be the old?
Let me pause it here for a second. So for everybody that hates Jared Goff right now, for everybody that's blaming Jared Goff right now, do you think that Dan Campbell would allow his quarterback that maybe just had a bad game, right, some interceptions, if he had any inkling that Jared Goff was not the right guy, do you think that they would be allowing them to be involved in the next coordinator, change in Detroit? I don't think so. Now, do I think that Dan Campbell would elaborate on this question and go deep into this question if he felt that way? I don't think so. I think that he probably would have answered it very short and simple and say, yeah, his involvement is always great. And I think he probably would have ended it there. I don't think that he would have went any further than that. But I think that just speaks volumes to the fact that they know and trust that Jared Goff is the guy. Jared Goff will put a Super Bowl in Detroit very soon.
Ultimate decision? No, it's not. But what he says is going to mean a lot to me.
by looking back at past championship teams in this area who've gotten close, got knocked back, and then before they eventually break through. Do you think there's something to that stuff to be kind of learned? You mentioned Saturday night, for example, you didn't think you had them ready. I don't know, the extra week, the expectation with the number 1 seed. But what do you think of that process?
I just go back to this. When you have the right guys and you're made the right way, failure only makes you stronger. Man, you only come back better. I believe that. And unfortunately, I've had a ton of those. But man, I think it makes you hungry. I'll tell you the hard things is when you, I think when you have success on a certain level and trying to reload and do it again. That's why, I think what New England did for years and Bill Belichick and that's unbelievable. That is unbelievable. But with where we're at, we had these goals, we fell short. Man, we met 2 of those goals this year and in a sense went above and beyond what we were a year ago, but yet we didn't get any further. And man, that's disappointing. But it also, it eats at me. That drives me, that motivates me. And I got a text from St. Brown at 4:00 in the morning after that game, So I know the guys it eats away at, and they're the right guys. They're our guys for a reason. And that's what will always give me hope and let me know we're only going to be better. We're going to come back stronger. We're going to learn from this, and it's just more fuel on the fire is what it is.
I had a similar question, so I'll phrase it this way. Do you want it to be this loss a bruise that heals, or do you want it to be a scar that you wear on your sleeve going into next season?
Well, I don't know. And I told the team that just don't forget it. Don't forget it. I mean, you look across the field at the end of that game. That's somebody feels good and somebody doesn't, and just remember that feeling. No different than last year. That's all. I mean, those are the things that you etch in your mind that you don't ever want to forget. And I'm the type of person that replays every bad decision, every bad move in my head over and over on purpose, just to let it burn and eat away at you, because that's the stuff that makes you not want to feel that anymore, is to go back for more. So we fell short. It wasn't good enough. The players are extremely disappointed. I know the fans are. I certainly am. But we will reload and we will be back.
That's all I needed to hear, Eric. That's it. We will reload. We will be back. And Dan, you're right. There's a lot of fans that are not happy. There's a lot of us that are still going through, the pain of the loss. We won't forget, right? We're part of this fan base. We're part of this team to a degree that is still going to show up next year. We're still going to show up and do our damnedest to help this team, when the opponent is on offense. And we're still going to carry that same message, every single year to every single game. In our house, nobody's allowed but us. We're going to take it to the next level. Dan's going to learn from it. You heard him say it. The team's going to learn from it. There's a reason why guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown are on this team. They're their guys. They understand it. It's eating at them. They want to get better. I'm sure there's some things in this game that maybe Amon-Ra is questioning. Did I make the right move? Did I make the right choice on a route? Did I miss a block? Those are the guys you need. Now, I don't want to go into JMO, really. But yesterday, I don't know if you heard this from me, Eric, and I don't know if you saw this, but you probably could have, because you should have been sitting right in that area.
Right in front of me.
So at the very end of the game, last 3 minutes, he was walking back to the line. He was barely getting ready. Did it seem like he just gave up?
Yeah.
What the F, dude?
It did.
Just like he was so out of it. Like, even after the interception in the end zone, he was like,
his spirit was broke after he threw that interception.
And and that's part of the process for him too, that he's going to have to know.
It does. Dude, he has to feel like that game was on him. He gave it away.
It wasn't all on him, though.
Listen, if you're JMO and you have this big, long touchdown run, and then you almost off your fingertips had an 80-yard bomb from Goff, and then you throw that interception, you have to feel like that game was on you. Like you could have done more. You could have caught that ball. You could have thrown a reception or tucked it and ran in for a touchdown. You know, he probably feels like 14 points came off the board because of him. Yeah. And I understand it. You know, he's got to feel horrible. And it, you know, being that young, and he's a very emotional person, he probably took it very hard. It had to have been hard to get his head back in the game thinking we're done, you know, and it's all my fault, you know. So that I can kind of understand it from that side of the coin. But on the other side of the coin, man, you got to get your head in the game. Let's go. There's still a chance. It doesn't say 000 up there yet. Let's go.
Yep. So, you know, to JMO, which I'm sure you'll never hear this, but dude, the game wasn't all on you, man.
No.
But at the end of that game, man, you've got to get back to that line, you know, and at a minimum, if you're gassed, if you're hurt, if something's going on and you're just having trouble getting back, you got to run off the sideline and you got to signal for someone to get in to at least spike the football or just get off.
And he did that.
You can spike the football with 10 players on the field. You can spike the football with 9.
Yeah, he did that after that long bomb. When it went off his fingertips and he didn't catch the ball, as soon as he landed, he ran straight to the sideline, put his arm up, me, take me out. I thought he was hurt, but he must have just, you know, had the wind knocked out of him or something, because he ended up getting to the sideline, breathing for a second, didn't see a trainer, and went back in on the next play. But he did take himself out really, really fast.
We live and we learn, right? It's a season of a lot of ups and downs. Brandy, I appreciate you in there saying you can start voting for me for fan of the year next year. To be honest with you, the only thing that I want this next year is I'm going to be building a tailgate spot, and I want to start the turned up tailgates. I want to build a podcast studio on a trailer, and there's not any other person that, you know, I would love to have to celebrate like a fan of the year. I mean, I think it'd be great to bring somebody with you, right? I know you could bring one person with you, but why not bring another fan of the year with you? So hopefully if it does happen, I won't be able to just bring Eric, but I'll be able to bring Megan, and Eric could bring his wife, and, you know, we can go on this amazing journey together. But at the end of the day, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. And if people vote, they vote, but I'm here to support the fan base. And when people recognize the good things that we do, great. Let's just keep growing. You know, our season ended early. I don't know if we'll get to 10K this year. The goal is to try to get to 10K, you know, by the Super Bowl when the season, or by the new league year. So a couple weeks after the Super Bowl, maybe we'll get there. With your help, we will. Just share it, like it, send it out to other people. We'll get there. Definitely going to have some different content creators come onto this channel this week. There's some amazing creators that do Lions work, and we want to do a season breakdown, and that's what we're aiming for, is to do a full season breakdown. So we'll have one more conversation about it. We're always going to talk about it, but I want to have one more conversation with a lot of different people, just kind of put it to bed, and then let's move forward. We've got draft work to do. We've got a combine to go to, and we've got a draft, you know, to go to in Green Bay. I'm not going to miss that one. I want to see the dysfunction at its best.
I don't know how that's going to work. Really, I don't. I don't know how it's going to work there. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Yep. All right, so let's do it, Eric. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be working on draft stuff. The morning show obviously will continue to go. Be working hard on you know, the rest of the channels and all the other things that I have planned to try to get done this season, this next season, this year. We got some big goals. The goal now for 2025 is 20K. So from here till 2026, when the new league year starts, is 20K. So we got some work to do. But we'll get there. Eric, 30 seconds or whatever, however long you want to take to wrap it up.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to every single person that tuned into this podcast all year long. Thank you to all the guys that are going to continue to come in every morning, all season long. You know, we got the combine, the draft, all that stuff coming up. And it is Detroit Lions 365 days a year. And I just want to say a big thank you to every single person that I met this year, because to me, this season was all about making memories and getting to live my dream as a Lions fan. I've never been to this many games in a season ever. I've never made it to every single Lions home game in a season. I've never been to so many away games. I got to go to California. I got to go to Green Bay. I got to go to Indy. I got to go to all these amazing places that I've never been to, except for Green Bay. But I wasn't too impressed with that stadium, by the way. I don't like bench seating. I think it's awful. Oh my God. It's not high school. Come on, put seats in. I don't like sitting in.
It's part of the history, you know.
I'm wider than this. So is every other person in the stadium.
But
It's
you know
not
what though?
fair.
You know what though? I mean, you know this. Even sitting at Ford Field, the seats are so small that it feels like the people to your left and your right are like half their bodies are in your seat.
Yes, you're always touching elbows with whoever's next to you.
Yeah, and then depending on where you sit in the stadium, the seats are even tighter. So,
Yes.
like up in the 200s, they seem tighter than in the 100s. I don't know. I'd almost rather see bench seating in Ford Field, but like a nice big blue bench with a back, and that way everyone can kind of just get comfy. You know what I mean? Just spread it out as much as you can and get comfy. But
Yeah.
no one needs the little arm things. No one uses them. You know what I mean?
But anyway, thank you to all the fans of the Detroit Lions. Thank you to all the opposing fans that brought us in, let us take over your stadiums. It was awesome. And especially Colts fans, man, they were the coolest fans in the world, Colts fans. Seriously, I had a guy that was a 40-plus year Colts season ticket holder sitting next to me. And he's like, dude, you guys are amazing. You guys are going to win the Super Bowl this year. You guys have the team. He's like, I saw it when Peyton Manning was here, and I knew we were going to win it that year. And that's how I feel about your team. You know, to have opposing teams telling us we're on the right track, we're doing the right things. You know, it was really nice to hear. And, you know, I'm going to take pride in the fact that when I go back to Ford Field, our banner up there is going to look like this. It's going to have 2023 and 2024 back-to-back NFC North champions. I got my flag when I went down to Ford Field this weekend. I bought the big 3-foot by 5-foot flag for the 2024. I'm going to put it up on my wall over here next to my 2023 flag. And all I can do is say thank you for the memories. Thank you, Detroit Lions. This season was so much fun. It might be over for this season, but it's not over for me as a Lions fan. This next season, I will have season tickets. Sounds like I'm probably going to be taking over 2 tickets for another Detroit Lions fan that is a season ticket holder that just can't afford 4 anymore. He wants to go down to 2. So I might have some amazing seats for next year. It'll be pretty awesome. And I'd love it if I'm always in the same spot from now on, going to Ford Field. And what an amazing dream of a season this is, and was, and is going to be. Thank you, everybody. That's all I can say. That's it for me.
Yeah, I could say all the same stuff, but I do know this: the show's back on tomorrow. We don't stop. Yep. It's 24/7, 365. We're going to continue to claw and rake at all of the news around the NFL. Probably do some live streams watching some of these upcoming games. And we can sit back and enjoy it. I don't really have a dog, you know, or a pony in this race. I am not rooting for the Chiefs. I'm sick of this narrative that has been dribbling for the Chiefs. If they win a three-peat this year off of all the help that the refs have given them, it's disgusting. The Lions, we failed. We absolutely failed. We came up a little bit short, a lot short, actually. And it's time to move forward. Like Dan Campbell says, we're not breaking everything back down. We're just going to continue to build it up. You know, we're going to take the brick out that, you know, we just failed really hard on, and we're going to replace it with a new brick. And then we're going to add some layers to that. You know, Dan thought that we got to where we wanted to get to. Getting the 1 seed obviously was a big goal this year, and back-to-back NFC North championships was a big goal this year. And we accomplished that. But where the Lions failed and fell short is not moving past that. And this is the next season where I have to say it. Put your bets in tomorrow. Lions Super Bowl in 2025, right? It has to happen. The window is so narrow in the NFL. They have the team right now. They have a lot of players signed right now. We just need to go the extra mile. And I think that they're going to get it. I know that they're going to get it done. Disappointing end of the season, but as a Lions loyalty fan for so many seasons, 40 years, you know, that I've been around this team, it's always next year. This year's going to be different. It will be different. I can't wait to see what the new motto for the season is going to be. I don't know if Dan Campbell said it yet. Sometimes he kind of leaks it in these post-game or after the game media pressers. He kind of leaks a phrase. So I'll have to go back and study what he's been saying the last couple of days and see if he's leaked it and we'll see what he says. But anyway, we'll see you guys tomorrow. You guys are great. Appreciate all of you guys, all the fans again, you know, everyone that, has had an opportunity to be part of the show. Hopefully you guys come around. I know that in the off season, a lot of people don't pay as much attention, but I promise you there's going to be phenomenal content this season and even more content going on this season than last year. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. You guys have a wonderful day. Go in pride. Go Detroit Lions. We'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. On my phone was Peyton. Yeah. On my phone was Peyton Manning.
Shout, tune in, feel the energy ignite. Oh, rise and grind, take flight. Each blade kick, we feel alive, alive. Echoes in the city as the fans arrive. The heart of the motor in the screen. We're bound together by a football dream. Rise and grind, Detroit is calling out. Football dreams in every shout. Tune in, feel the energy ignite. Oh, rise and grind, take flight. Hey, feel the unity, the crowd's electrified. There under the stadium lights, when they just thrive. Every touchdown, we're close to clock west. In Detroit, we stand. Give it out there. Rise and grind, Detroit's calling out. Football dreams in every shout. Tune in, feel the energy ignite.